course, this is an impact that came as a result of years of work and thousands of hours of volunteers from all across the country advocating for lawful, transparent elections. And so we have to make sure that the election outcome does not lead people to believe that the problems have been solved, because that is just not the case. So there is so much work that needs to be done still to fix what is broken in our election system.
You're welcome to come over and let him run. Swing, jump.
Go ahead, Heather.
Okay. Yeah. So again, there are things that we, so first of all, we are desperately in need of efforts to modernize our election laws, specifically our federal election laws. And of course, there is an amazing opportunity right now, or in the 119th Congress, to potentially get some of those federal election laws, particularly those that have kind of crippled some of the systems. And so I think that it's important to work towards that. But federal legislative changes are not guaranteed, even in the current legislative situation. So it's important to advocate for state legislative changes as well. We have to continue to work towards that, because there's no guarantee that we are going to get those federal election reforms. Anyway, so Steve called me this morning and asked me to hop on and talk today. So I agreed to do it. And I have three important things that I want to kind of point out. The first one is that the 2024 general election is not over yet, right? I mean, I think a lot of us have a tendency to think, okay, well, it's over, but only about 11 states have certified the election results as of this morning. There are more than 20 states that have certification deadlines in December. So there are some important things that are still happening in all of these jurisdictions, in counties, in municipalities, things that have to happen, things that are statutorily required prior to certification. So one of the things I think it's important to pay attention to is, for folks out there who are still interacting with their county election officials, are the counties or the municipalities reconciling the number of ballots cast to the number of voters who voted? Now, this is seems like an obvious sort of thing, right? But it's a common sense pre-certification step that is required by law in most states, right? The number of ballots cast cannot exceed the number of voters who voted in an election. If there are more ballots than voters, then that is an error, and it should be resolved before certification. So, for example, if you think about, Georgia's a good example because it was well covered. In 2020, there were ballots that were scanned twice, right? So, that was acknowledged by the county. It was acknowledged by the state election board. They scanned the same ballots 2 times. If they had done what they were legally required to do in Fulton County and other counties, they would have identified that problem because they would have realized that they had more ballots than they had voters who voted. And so, doing this common sense step prior to certification, which, by the way, is required in almost every state. We had double scan of ballots in Pennsylvania. We had double scanning of ballots in Arizona. All of those things could have been avoided and corrected prior to certification if folks were just following those laws. So there are steps that need to be taken. And I think it's important that we don't sit back and say, well, the election is done, because that's just not the case. There are still many jurisdictions out there that are doing this important step. So let's keep our eyes on the process going on to finish up the 2024 election. And then let's turn our focus to what we need to do going forward. One of the things that I think is really important for, again, the collective we, for all of these folks working on election integrity, election systems vulnerability, is that the people who are, sort of on the other side, the organizations that have really systematically worked to remove the safeguards in our election systems, they have done this over decades. They are playing the long game, right? They are willing to endure short-term losses and short-term challenges in exchange for positioning themselves for future programs and future success. So, for example, if you think about this, like 15 or even more than 15 years ago, there were organizations out there openly advocating for universal voter registration, meaning that every single adult at the time you turn 18, you should be registered. So if we think that our voter rolls are bloated now, can you just imagine if they were successful in getting universal voter registration? So why would they want universal voter registration? Well, they set out to do that because they did the research and they realized that low information voters, that's their terminology, not mine, low information voters tend to vote in a particular way. So it would be in their interest to have more people, particularly people who are not really engaged in sort of the electoral process, to have them registered so that when an election comes around, they can, put into place all of the efforts to get a ballot in the hand of every person. So their goal is universal voter registration. So how do they get there? They have incremental plans, right? So things like automatic voter registration, right? Automatic voter registration is a way to, get more people on the voter rolls. The Electronic Registration Information Center, right? ERIC, that program, that nonprofit, that NGO started over 15 years ago. And part of their mission, in fact, I think the largest part of their mission, was to get eligible but unregistered people registered, because again, they want universal voter registration. And that is just one example of what I mean by they play the long game. So we can't, we have to be sure that we are in this for the long haul, right? That the programs that we have done, the successes that we have had, and the progress doesn't stop now. We have to keep advocating to get to the point where our elections are more transparent, right? There's still a long way to go in that regard in a lot of states. Some states are well ahead of the game in terms of transparency, but others are not. In Pennsylvania in particular, a lot of states get access to the cast vote record, right? In Pennsylvania, we have been in court fighting for that since 2021, and the Department of State is, again, appealing in appellate courts, trying to prevent transparency. These are election records. Obviously, if they are available in one state, there's nothing to prevent them from being made available. It's just the opposite of transparency, right? They want to put more opacity on it so that people cannot get access to those records. So I think there's a lot of work that we still have to do, and we have to be committed in the long haul. And in order to do that, we need to have like permanent infrastructure. It can't be something that happens around an important election. So all of these folks out there who are joining these, these different groups every week, like Steve's, like EIN, for example, I really hope that we'll continue to see the same type of participation and the same number of people joining that. Having said that, the other thing that I wanted to really quickly talk about is the issue of UOCAVA. UOCAVA is the Uniform Overseas Citizens Absentee Voting Act, and people still believe that this is voting by members of the military, when in fact that's a very small percentage of the people who take advantage of the privileges of UOCAVA. The majority of these UOCAVA voters are non-military overseas citizens. And so I think it's important to sort of spread, increase awareness about how this program works and what these privileges are, and what the issues are and what the vulnerabilities are in the system. There were a couple of lawsuits, or 3 or 4 lawsuits filed in the run up to this election. I hope they continue to work their way through the courts, specifically about, states allowing people who have never lived in the United States, literally never lived here, that they purport to be U.S. citizens by birth. And again, there are many U.S. citizens who are citizens born abroad. But if they've never lived here, how do you establish, proof of where they're going to vote and all of those sorts of things? So we need to close some of those loopholes in the state law. But first, in order to get to the point where we can do that, we have to make people aware that this is not military voting. And just to show you that UOCAVA is not geared towards increasing participation of the military, if you look at the EAC's EAVS, which is their every 2 years they have to put out results about how the voting participation from the military and the non-military UOCAVA. And if you look there, you will see that based on the estimated population of the U.S. military personnel and their spouses, who are all counted in this military category, so members of the military and their spouses, there was a 17% turnout. 17% turnout. That is abysmal. So this program, this UOCAVA law, does not work to increase participation of the military. So we need to really focus on doing that and moving forward. And again, really optimistic about the possibility of federal legislation, but we need to continue to work for state legislation, and we need to stay engaged locally, because there's a lot of broken stuff that needs to be fixed.
Thank you very much. Leah Hoops is next. She's a advocate for grassroots organizing, and thank you for coming down. She's a little bit hoarse, so bear with her.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me on, Steve. It's been a while. Yes, unfortunately, I am sick. It is that time of year, so please forgive me. Just this morning, 10 a.m., Greg and I went to our court case, in which there's a defamation case against Greg and I, and other co-defendants, which would be Newsmax, The Federalist, Hogan Gidley, and others. So I really would like to touch on, I noticed your check boxes there and what's important to us, and it's specifically organizing grassroots and really taking back our court system. And hopefully, with President Trump coming into office, is working on training attorneys to fight like Greg and I fight in the court system, and teaching people how to do litigation pro se. So just to give you some insight of the lawfare that is still happening in the United States, and is still happening even though President Trump has won, and it was by a miracle and the hard work of the grassroots. So I want to say congratulations to the grassroots and their efforts across the country, and especially here in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. So Greg and I walked into a courtroom today, and it was the same thing that we had gone through in Philadelphia with the defamation case there. And we're using truth as a complete defense. And what we do is we destroy the enemy by, just using all of our tactical strategies that we can teach people, that we can teach the grassroots, which we've taught many people in over the past 4 years on how to defend themselves, also in teaching them their rights, teaching them about our election codes in each of our states respectively. Obviously, we focus on the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania in our election code. So our focus has always been inside of the court system. It's extremely corrupted, but also we have had some glimmers of hope. Obviously, we won our case in Philadelphia, and it is possible to get through to a judge and actually have them rule on the law. So for Greg and I, it's always been about getting in there and not feeling like that you need an attorney to represent you, because we could tell you personally that 9 times out of 10, they don't understand election law, they don't understand constitutional rights, and they are not actually fighting for your rights. And it's like a buddy system. They kind of shake each other's hands behind closed doors, and they're making deals, and they're actually not trying to fight for election integrity, and they're also not trying to fight the fraud. So that was our main focus. That's always been our main focus for Greg and I, and we've been very successful. Today was just another example. This defamation case it's absolutely absurd. And we've been fighting for 4 years. And I feel like that's going to be part of the path to victory. We're more than available. You can get a hold of me through email, leahfreedelcopa@protonmail.com. I can teach you guys how to file motions, file right to know requests, and get public records. It's really about, focusing in on these public officials that are sitting inside of your counties. And like Heather Honey was just saying, we really have to focus on our backyards, and staying, very just laser focused on these people, because they've been implanted into our counties and in our townships in order to take over from the ground level up. And I'm very hopeful that, that this message really does reach President Trump, because I know that right now he is looking to put together a team for the 2020 election. And thank God President Trump has not paid attention to anyone else saying to move on from the 2020 election. I know we hear that from the Republican Party. We hear it from the RNC and a bunch of other, people that are out there. But I'm very thankful he has not moved on from the 2020 election. There are people that are still being punished, like myself and Greg Stenstrom and the J6ers. And I'm hoping that we can focus on moving forward and getting more people to file pro se in their local counties.
Okay, thank you very much. Raj?
About that. Okay, so we're coming on. We're going to bring our next speaker on. Randy is going to be coming on, but before he comes on, I want to just share a quick message here. So these calls, as you can imagine, take a lot of effort to put together. And so what we would really like for you to do, especially with Thanksgiving coming up here, is we'd really like you to consider going to the flagshirt.us, the flagshirt.us. You can see that on the screen right there. They got all kinds of deals, so please do that. Also, if you're watching this on any of our podcast partners and you'd like to stay in touch with what we're doing, hear about upcoming calls, text the word elections to 91776.
A little louder, Raj.
Okay. Text the word elections to 91776. Text the word elections to 91776. Again, text the word elections to 91776. And as we're coming up here to the holidays, please consider going to the flagshirt.us, the flagshirt.com, and please spend some money there. That helps the company that Steve Stern owns, which in turn helps these events take place in a way that you're enjoying right now. So with that said, Randy, if you could please come on the screen. Thanks for being here. Andy, I beg your pardon. Andy, sorry for that. I'll looking forward to you coming on. Go ahead and unmute, Andy, if you would.
AMAC.
Great.
Thank you very much, Raj, and thank you very much, Steve. I'm Andy Mangione. I'm Senior Vice President for AMAC Action. Steve Stern asked me to come on here just to kind of give you an update about who we are and how active our members have been specifically in this past election. AMAC was founded in 2007 as a conservative alternative to AARP. We were founded by an individual, a private individual, who felt that AARP didn't necessarily represent his views. He looked around for an alternative, and there wasn't one. So he took his wife's retirement, his own money, or her own money actually, started up AMAC 17 years ago. Fast forward to 2024, we have over 2 million plus dues paying members in all 50 states. This is not the Washington DC list of supporters. These people forked out $16 to join us, and they are very, very active from a political standpoint. AMAC is actually broken up into 3 organizations: AMAC Inc., which is the member benefits organization, and that our benefits menu is constantly being added to, constantly being built out. But you will get roadside assistance, you will get vision plans and dental plans and all the insurance products for over and under 65 years old. You'll get travel discounts, hotel discounts, and a whole host of benefits, financial services advice. That's what AMAC Inc. does. I am Senior Vice President for AMAC Action. We are the C4 advocacy end of the organization. I represent AMAC and our 2 million plus members in Washington, D.C., as well as states throughout the country. And then there's the AMAC Foundation, which is the C3 educational arm that provides expert advice on both Medicare and Social Security. So I wanted just to talk a little bit about how AMAC members they're highly engaged in political issues. They are very educated and they are active. 2,500 plus of our members signed up to be poll workers and election observers in 13 critical states just this past election. This was not them clicking on the website. This was filling out the form and committing to work the elections in the same 13 states that everybody else targeted. We also, over the summer on a federal level, our members sent over 19,000 messages to Congress to help get the SAVE Act passed, the Safeguarding American Voter Eligibility Act. And we were called out specifically and personally by Speaker Johnson for our work there. And then just this past election, over 800,000 plus of our members were activated in 17 states on election integrity issues, in addition to other issues. But with regard to those election integrity issues, our members voted early and helped everybody else on this call to get those election integrity issues passed in 14 states. So that's who I am. I did put something in the chat if you wanted to know more about AMAC. You can go to amac.us. If you wanted to sign up for AMAC, you can go to amac.us/sign up. It's in the chat, and we're running a special right now where you can get 1 year of AMAC for $1. We put out a great magazine in addition to other digital platforms that keep people informed. So that's what I've got. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Next up is Cleta Mitchell, the star of election security, election integrity. Takes a lot to get her on. I will say, of all the people I've ever dealt with, Cleta Mitchell is one of the superstars of this election security, election integrity, whatever we're going to call it. But I got to say that Cleta Mitchell works as hard as me, or maybe harder. She knows everybody in Congress, everybody in the Senate. I don't know how she does it. I'm so proud of her. Thank you for coming on, Cleta.
Thank you so much. And I just want to say thanks to everybody. Look, I mean, all of us know how we made a difference. All of you made a difference in the 2024 elections. But our work is not done. And those of us who've been toiling in the vineyards and these local election boards, in the state election offices, the state legislatures, you all know what I'm talking about. We're far from done. I want to give a shout out to Steve and Raj for all that you've done. And I want to give a shout out to Andy Mangione, because AMAC is, I always say, the essential partner. If you need some grassroots people who are going to really do something, you want to call Andy and talk about getting AMAC involved. There are a lot of groups in Washington that talk a good game, but if you want something done, you call AMAC. So I'm very serious about that. I've said that many, many times. I want to say 2 things here. As I said, those of us who are working in these election offices around the country, Pennsylvania, Arizona, Nevada, North Carolina, Georgia, Michigan, Wisconsin, we know that just because President Trump carried those states does not mean our battle is over. And we could spend probably an hour on each of those states and how my Democrat elected officials and election officials work, doing everything they could to not follow the law and to block laws that need to be enacted. But I got to tell you, it gets as frustrating to me as some of the Republicans who pull punches and who don't, particularly when you have grassroots groups who know what the problems are, they know what needs to be done, and the Republican establishment won't listen. So my goal for 2025 is that we have specific principles that we want adopted in every state, because we know that these laws have got to be changed. And I've got to tell you, the federal laws, the federal statutes that Congress, led by the Democrats for over 30 years, have wrecked our voter rolls. They have created all kinds of problems, blocked the ability to confirm citizenship status before someone is added to the voter rolls, and allowed all of the problems that we see, whether it is ballots coming in well after the election. There's a provision in the Help America Vote Act passed after Bush v. Gore in 2000, which specifically under federal law allows ballots to be received after election day. That is not something that anyone had ever really contemplated. And the court decisions that the Justice Department, led by the left-wing Civil Rights Division, I do not care whether it was under a Republican or Democrat president, in the voting rights section, the voting section, and the Civil Rights Division of the Justice Department, they have been left-wing activists since day one. It's time, and I'm praying that Pam Bondi will go in there and fire every lawyer in the voting section in the Department of Justice, because they do everything they can to stop election integrity, and they have created a lot of case law that is really terrible for election integrity. So I'm doing everything I can to put together a package, a structure, to get the Republicans in Congress, to get President Trump and his team to understand we do not have time to mess around. We need to get a federal statute pulled together to replace, to do what the Democrats got Congress to do after 2000. Remember, after 2000, the Democrats pushed to get rid of the punch card machines and voting systems and those old lever machines. And Congress appropriated millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars, to replace those voting systems in every state in the country. There's no reason that we shouldn't do the same thing today, and to appropriate the funds, and for Congress to say that those insecure systems that are used for voting need to be replaced. The president has campaigned on a number of principles. All of those need to be put into federal law. National voter ID, receive all ballots by election day. None of this receiving dumps of ballots for weeks following the election. Reform UOCAVA, separated into civilian and military. No, those should not be under the same law. Those need to be separated. We need to remove the barriers to cleaning voter rolls. That's all in federal law. We need to get rid of that. We need to reintroduce the SAVE Act with even more strength than was there in the SAVE Act of earlier this year. And we need to make sure that people have paper ballots hand marked, and that any tabulators be confirmed. Any tabulation has to be confirmed by hand, that there's no system that is used that has any capability of remote access. All of this, updated, critical updates in the last minute of software and voting systems, all of those things Congress needs to address and states need to address. So look, I'm going to be coming back and asking a lot of you for help. We have the Election Integrity Network has a national working group on state legislation. We'll probably be adding one on the federal statute, but we need to have a really robust SAVE Act of 2025, in my opinion. And this needs to stand for Strengthen American Voting and Elections, the SAVE Act of 2025. And we need to be telling everybody to talk to their legislators, state and federal. And we need to let our information, our expertise, all of us have gleaned from working with these election laws and these election officials over the last 4 years. We now know a lot more about it than any of the election lawyers on our side, and certainly more than elected officials. So we have a lot to be grateful for this Thanksgiving, but we just need to remember we have to buckle down and get to work, because we have a lot left to do. I put a lot of things on Twitter You can find me at Cleta Mitchell on Twitter or X, I guess, and probably the same on Rumble and the others at Cleta Mitchell. But we're going to be coming back. I appreciate, Steve, the opportunity to come and speak, and we've got a lot to do. So look forward to working with you next year.
Yeah, Cleta, give us a little information. We had 200,000 plus poll watchers and poll workers, and the next election is coming in 2 years. A lot of people have gone to sleep. What can people do now? Because, what happens is you win an election, people start to say, okay, that's great. Trump's going to do everything. So give us a little input on what the people can do. And also, where did you find that they actually had problems in different areas such as Detroit, Wisconsin, in Wisconsin and Milwaukee? Where did you see the problems on this election?
Look, the biggest problems, I could go through each and every one of the problems, but let me tell you one of the biggest problems. And Heather Honey and I were talking about this last week. We need to do an analysis so we can show everybody the difference between what the election returns show on election day and then every subsequent dump of ballots post-election. What you see is victories for Republicans changing to victories for Democrats. And that happened. The North Carolina Supreme Court justice race, the Republican was winning by 6,000 votes at the time the polls closed and the election not counting. Well, then for 2 more weeks, there continued to be absentee ballots that showed up. And the state election board started quit publishing the source of those ballots. They've been publishing those every day through election day, and then they stopped. And they received ballots for 2 more weeks. And now the race is like 28 votes difference with the Democrat leading. Wisconsin, 4 a.m, 100,000 absentee ballots just magically appeared. Nevada, Sam Brown was leading, and then in the U.S. Senate race, and then as more ballots came in after the election, funnily enough, then that margin switches, and then he loses that race. Kari Lake, Eric Hovde in Wisconsin. It almost happened in Pennsylvania. Heather Honey can tell you that there were a lot of things that she and the network of election integrity volunteers tried to get done in Pennsylvania because of people being allowed to vote when they had not registered. They weren't even on the voter rolls, and their votes were allowed to be counted. And the powers that be decided not to pursue those challenges. Well, fortunately, it ended up that Casey that wasn't able to prevail as Mark Elias had done on behalf of Al Franken in 2008 in Minnesota. But the problem is these ballots that keep coming in after election day is a giant situation for fraud, and we have to stop it. And we cannot stop it unless we change the federal statute, because the Help America Vote Act specifically has a provision for ballots received after election day. And the Democrats, the law says that what you're supposed to do is allow people to vote a provisional ballot. But what ends up happening is they just read the first part of the statute, and they allow all these ballots to come in after the election. And we just have to stop that. That's a really big problem. And we have to require transparency. Many of you may have been involved in efforts to get local election officials to actually allow access to cast vote records, to the other election materials and data that they are supposed to retain for 22 months. And in Georgia in 2020, the state, all over the state of Georgia, they destroyed mandatory records that are required by law to be kept. They destroyed those to keep people from being able to go back and do an audit. So these are things that Congress needs to fix. Congress broke these things. Congress needs to fix these things.
Very good. Thank you very much. We'll get you back on again because you got so much to say, and we got so many people here today. We want to thank you. Have a nice Thanksgiving.
Thank you too. Thank you.
Next, we have Dave Bratt, who is the Vice President of Liberty University, one of my good friends. He's driving today. He gladly came on as a favor to everybody here. He was on the War Room to take care of Steve when he was out. He did a fantastic job. Thank you so much for coming on.
Hey, great to be with you, Steve. Hey, tell me, what do the folks want to hear about mainly? My main shtick is economics, and I'm not going to do any better than Cleta just did on the votes. What do you want me to speak to, Steve?
Comment a little bit about that, and also about the economics. What you feel with Trump coming in, what's going to happen?
Yeah.
And in
Well,
particular,
I
Dave,
think,
and in particular, Dave, if you want to, economically, the landscape is shifting. Feds are going to downsize with Doge. States have to pick up the slack. There's a lot of opportunity here for states and counties to step up their leadership and counterbalance the federal overreach, even in economics. So if you want to comment on that as well, in addition to what Steve mentioned.
yeah, sure. Let's just start off with that. So the most important thing Cleta said is we got to change all this stuff in law, right? Now, you don't just want to do, procedural moves through the executive under Trump when they can be taken away in a few years. And so along with that, the Doge, right? Everybody's optimistic about that, but that's a tricky deal. The Congress and the Senate still have, I was in the House, right? The Freedom Caucus, we sat in the back, 20 or 30 of us. In the middle is a giant blob of about 100 to 120 Republicans who will never vote for all the things you think are going to happen right now, right? So when I was in there, the budget was about $4.5 trillion, and the deficit was 800 billion. So today the budget is 7 trillion, right? 4.5 up to 7 trillion, and the deficit is 2 trillion. So to get to balance, you have to cut $2 trillion. That's not going to happen, right? They're not going to cut. And so the Doge, they don't cut, right? They're not passing law. What they're going to do is reorg, right? So they're going to get rid of just layers, hopefully, and agencies. And you can't fire employees individually or you get sued, but you can reorg, right? Reorganize entire secretaries under the president. And it looks like they're on target to do that. They're announcing that. So that can turn into huge cost savings. If you missed it, they both wrote an article in the Wall Street Journal 2 days ago outlining this. And the most important thing, everyone on this call, the big ask I would have is share Bannon's war room on RAV, and share his platform on Rumble, because he really goes through that. He's been going over this for 10 years, 4 years in detail, and the House and the Senate are just starting to catch on to some of this stuff, right? So the best thing we can do is educate everybody in this country on some of this stuff. And so the biggest piece of that messaging, Elon and Vivek, they opened up that article and closed with what I think is the most important piece. And that's you're going to get gaslit, right? They're going to say, you bunch of people on this call, you're a bunch of radicals. You just want to destroy government. You want to, break it all up, and that's it. That is absolutely false. And they took that on in the first sentence. They said, no, you deep state, administrative state people, you are the one that have corrupted our government. You're the one that have destroyed the government. And the single most important thing we have to do as a country is return this government to the people, right? For real, right? When the people say something actually happens. And so in all the past elections, you all know this, I can tell the ages, you're kind of in my ballpark. For the last 30 years, the people speak, and then that blob of 100 Republicans in the middle do nothing. They're totally unresponsive. And they get away with it. They've shifted all the power to the blob, right? Mike Benz, if you haven't studied him, make sure go listen to his 2-hour interviews with Tucker. Those two will tell you what Elon and Vivek are up to. But so they can reorg, but that is not going to be law, right? So that's a one-time move. They said they could probably save up to 5. And so the biggest thing we got to do is, in the war room, I'm sure is going to be at the forefront, and all these new great secretaries that know how to message will be out. But the biggest thing we have to do is put pressure on the House, and they're getting a hair better. but the Senate has shown no receptivity, right, to our messaging, to what we want. And we keep reelecting these people over and over and over. And that's the part where this group that I'm talking to, you know it, but we've got to dislodge some of those people now, right? And you need, in your own states or whatever, you need to put together little mini contracts with America and get thousands of people on lists. The politicians will listen if you got thousands and thousands of people on lists. And you just tell them, look, you either sign your name. What they will never do up front is sign their name to conditions, right? Like no more immigrants, zero, until we get this thing solved, right? And our group will not vote for you if you sign off on a $6 trillion budget. That'll be the limit, right? And so I'm being weak right there. Instead of 7 trillion, it's going to have to be 6 at least, right? 6 or less, just to have fiscal sanity moving forward. I doubt we're going to get down to 5, right? They added roughly 2 trillion due to COVID and everything else they've been doing up in the deep state. But those are the things, right? And then the war room and the RNC, the RNC platform and Trump's platform were those big three. It was the economy, and then the border invasion, and then the never-ending wars. And the other thing you can put on your list to put pressure on your House and Senate members is, where are you? I haven't seen you on TV. And if you don't get on TV, you're fired, right? And what you're going to do on TV is say, either we get a War Powers Act going through Congress for this funding going to Ukraine, or we're not voting for you. Right? Either Congress endorses this war, which they'll never do in a million years, and say, along with that War Powers Act, we also want you to audit the spending for this war that's never been done. And what you all know this, but the reason they want never-ending wars, right, is because that's how they take hundreds of billions of your dollars, shove it overseas. All those dollars go into secret accounts that are not audited. They end up buying villas for people all over the continents, and we have no record of this. I mean, so that when Elon and Vivek are saying we want the American people to take over their government again, that's a perfect example, right? How in the world is it we don't get to audit our own government war funding? And then you might as well add on another one, audit the Federal Reserve system, right? The Federal Reserve caused the 07-08 crisis by printing too much money. They caused inflation. Very smart people are going around saying inflation's lower. In the subtext, when they talk, they're saying inflation's lower, so everything's good. And that's false. We need to educate our people better, right? Inflation went up 22% over the past 4 years. So the inflation rate was 9, then it was 7, 5, now it's 3, but the inflation rate is still 3. That means prices are still going up 3%. So they went up 22% in total over the past 4 years. They're going to go up another 3. So it's 22 plus 3. So it's up to 25%. And you've lost your right when you go to the supermarket. But that's even trivial, because you've lost 25% of your purchasing power of every dollar you're going to spend in your life. Prices went up. They're not going back down. So say you have $100,000 in your retirement account. When you pull that money out to retire and you thought you had $1 million, guess what it's going to purchase? $750,000. Right? If you have $100 in your instead of $100, what's it going to purchase? $75 worth of stuff. That's the real damage. It's all the wealth you've built up your entire life. It's not just when you go to the supermarket, right? And if the American people understood that, and the same with Social Security, those are all fixed kind of payments you're going to get, right? So when you get 25% theft from that Social Security pot, you're going to get only 75 cents on the dollar in your Social Security fund.
Dave, 2 minutes.
And the American people don't know any of this. Yeah, well, hey, go ahead. Ask me a couple questions, folks.
So
I'd love to hear.
what we'd like to know is, the youth is very important, and you've got a lot of youth in the Liberty University.
Good.
Give them a little bit of response on how Liberty University is helping.
Yeah, well, Liberty University, it's like preaching to the choir, right? Kids are Christian and they're very conservative. They're conservative, but the kids, they're not activists like you are, right? In the Christian church, like we had 150 million people vote in this election. 75, make the math easy. So 150 million voted total. There's 100 million Christians that can vote. So if the Christians would vote, we'd have a landslide every single time. And so the church, it spends too much time on these, pietistic issues, being morally holy, etc. Well, if the church wants to message that way, where are your people that you're putting up for president? Right? Where are the strong leaders you, the church, are putting up to be president of the United States? If you want to judge everybody, well, put up your own leaders, right? And so they're not doing that. And so we need to get real world again. We make everything about spiritual life. And God came down and created man and women out of the mud in Genesis 1, right? He's down on the earth fighting. And we need to get back to that mentality. It's not all about heaven in the life after. Jesus came and said, heaven is here amongst you, right? This is the new heaven and the new earth. And we need to act like this earth matters, because it does for the kids. And I haven't even mentioned education. Hopefully DOE really goes at that, right? We got a good, strong leader there now, Secretary of Department of Education. She's going to be very strong. Higher ed, I think everybody's starting to get the fact, and Trump announced, right, we're going to have an America First type strategy with respect to higher education. And so this is, brings a smile to my face. I love hearing that kind of messaging related to higher ed, because the Ivies are just freaking out. And so, Steve, anything else
That's
you
it.
need
Thank
to
you very
hear
much.
from
You
me?
were breaking up a little bit, so we appreciate you coming on. You have a good trip to Atlanta, and we'll see you soon. Have a good Thanksgiving.
All right. All right. Thanks, Steve, for all you do. God bless everybody. Thank you. Thank you all very much.
Awesome. Thank you. And this is a perfect segue, because our next speaker is going to be talking about the next generation, Hannah Faulkner. And for you guys still watching, please stay to the end. We still have Mike Lindell coming up. We still have Greg Senstrom coming up. We still have just phenomenal speakers coming up. So make sure you stay here to the end. A lot of questions coming up in the chat after Dave spoke about what is it that we do to get these states to stand up. So I'm going to give you two quick actions. Please write these two websites down. The first one is Precinct Strategy. You got to connect to Precinct Strategy. A lot of RECs, Republican Executive Committees, which is the Republican Party at your county level, are actually having elections coming up in December. If you're not a member of our Republican Executive Committee, you have got to go to precinctstrategy.com, fill out the form, you'll get information. You've got to get involved. So that's the first thing, precinctstrategy.com. Second thing, please go to statesrights.us, statesrights.us. If you want to know how you can create policy proposals, work with your governor, your Senate president, your Speaker of the House, the three people in your state that control your state. If you want to know how to work with them, please go to statesrights.us. It's essential that they feel and hear your voice on these matters. So with that said, let me go ahead and stop sharing the screen, and let me go ahead and bring up Hannah Faulkner. This is the first time she is on this program. And guys, you're in for a treat here. Hannah, thanks for being here. Take it away.
Can you guys hear me all right?
Yeah,
We
tell
can.
them what you do, Hannah. Give them your radio stations, TV stations. You do so much, it's hard to even follow you.
Yeah, okay. Well, a little bit about me. I'm Hannah Faulkner. I'm 17. I am the host of the Hannah Faulkner Show on Rumble, founder of Culture of 1776. And then I just announced my book, Last Chance to Save Our Republic, Forward, by the great, amazing General Michael Flynn. It's out for pre-order right now. You can go to any online bookstore and pre-order it. But that's a little bit about me. I got involved when I was 13 with Turning Point USA, which is doing a lot on the ground for the youth. And I know you guys have been mentioning just the fact that we are still counting ballots in many of the states Right now, it is crazy to think that we're still counting ballots 2.5 weeks post-election. I mean, third world countries can count ballots better than we can. It's pathetic, honestly. We are the most technologically advanced country, most technologically advanced that we've seen in human history, and we can't even count ballots in one day. It is really pathetic, and it just, I mean, we're a laughing stock. Right now, we definitely have to get back to paper ballots and get rid of these machines. We know there was election fraud. There's no doubt about it. Obviously, it was a lot better this election than it was in 2020. Because we had so many people, boots on the grounds, poll watchers, poll workers, people really just in the fight, understanding that if we do not win this election, this is going to be a loss for the American Republic, for the republic that our founding fathers intended this nation to be. So I'm very grateful for all of you guys getting on the ground, poll watching, poll working, really just paying attention to these elections, because if we do not have secure and safe, we do not have secure elections, what does the voting process even mean? What does the United States, the land of the free and home of the brave, what does it mean to live in America if we can't even have a secure election? So it's so important that what you guys are doing, it matters, no matter, whether that's making phone calls for a candidate, or doing poll watching, poll workers, whatever that may be, your involvement, grassroots efforts matters so much. But I want to talk a little bit about what's happened the past week. Obviously today, Jack Smith just dismissed the January 6th witch hunt case for President Trump. And obviously we know that if Trump was guilty, he wouldn't have dismissed this case. I think what Jack Smith's hoping to see is Trump pardon himself, so he can be like, oh, if you were innocent, then you wouldn't have tried to pardon yourself. So there's a lot of corruption. We've got to hold these people accountable. We can't just let this go. This is white collar crime at its finest, what they did to President Trump, and not just to President Trump, but American citizens across the country, J6 defendants that were there on January 6th, peacefully protesting their stolen election. We have American citizens that were praying outside of abortion clinics and are being fined, arrested, or put in jail simply for praying outside of these death clinics. And so what I always tell people is, when you're going to the polls, think about this. What does freedom mean in America when we can't even speak our minds, when we can't even speak up about what we believe in without fear of the FBI or the federal government coming after us, raiding our homes and taking us from our family members? And so for my generation, Gen Z, in my book, Last Chance to Save Our Republic, it's a book for everyone. Ultimately, we break down the issues, some of the greatest issues I believe facing our country. But one of the greatest issues I believe facing our country right now, it's not election integrity, it's not the border, it's the breakdown of the family unit, the breakdown of male and female roles in society. Because if we do not have a strong family unit, we're not going to have strong elections. We're not going to have a strong border, because it all starts with the family unit. It all starts with having a strong family. Strong families make strong nations. And these globalists, these communists understand that if they can attack your faith, if they can attack the church, and they can go after the family unit, then they can control society. So I, as it pertains to my generation before the election, I have to say, a few months before the election, I was traveling to college campuses, talking to students, and I was a little bit afraid. I was like, I don't know what's going to happen this election. Obviously, we know there's going to be election fraud, but I don't know how my generation is going to turn out for President Trump, because one of the cases we were walking up to, it was MTSU, Middle Tennessee State University, which is one of the most woke college campuses in the state of Tennessee. We walk up to one of the students and we asked her, hey, make sure you get out to the polls. Are you getting out to the polls this election? Vote with conviction, vote with your morality. And the girl says, who should I vote for? And we say, we're with a 501c3, so we can't tell you who to vote for, but we encourage you to vote with common sense and to vote, looking at the past presidency of President Trump to now, who's going to serve your country better in 2025 and going forward. And she says, oh, well, I was just going to do meeny, meeny, miny, mo on who I was going to vote for. And the young girl that was with me kind of started giggling, rightfully so. And the college student said, why are you laughing? I'm being serious. And so, this is the reality of a lot of our generation, is there's the lack of critical thinking. There's a lack of critical thinking among college students today, but I do have hope, because Gen Z did come out for President Trump. Every single demographic came out for President Trump more than they have in past elections. And I think that's because we've seen the MSM, we've seen the fake news media lie to us for decades upon decades, through COVID-19, through the 2020 election, the stolen 2020 election, through January 6th, the weaponization of our federal government against American citizens. wide open borders, crime, homelessness, drug addiction, the things that we've seen. I believe that's why all demographics came out for President Trump more than we've seen in previous elections, because people are fed up. Americans are fed up, and really, what's going to take back this country? We've got to educate the next generation. I mean, Thomas Jefferson said the best defense against tyranny is an educated society. And so if we really want to take back this country, we're going to have to get back to what made this country great. And that is biblical values, biblical principles. We've got to have safe and secure elections. That's why what you guys are doing and what Mr. Steve Stern is doing is so important. I had him on my show last week. Really appreciate what you're doing. But to the parents listening right now, I just want to give you a message to the parents. Talk to your kids, have a relationship with them, bring them to these events. Because listen, I mean, you guys, the generation 60, 70, 80 years old, you guys are going to pass away soon. I mean, I don't say that to be crude, but it's just the reality of it. And so your kids, your grandkids, they're the next generations. And if they have no idea what's happening in our country, we're going to repeat history as we know that it will do if we do not understand our history. So educate your children, bring them to these events, help them get involved with organizations like Turning Point USA, True the Vote. Bring them to the polls with you when you're voting. It's so important. I appreciate all that you guys are doing. For any of you guys, if you have any questions, you can reach out to me. My website is cultureof1776.com. I'm happy to reach out or happy to answer any questions that you have. And Mr. Steve, I don't know if you guys want me to, if you have anything else for me to share, but I appreciate what you guys are doing.
Yeah, the first thing is tell people how the youngsters can get involved. Evidently, you got involved when you're 15, 13, but I reach out to people all over the country. We don't find a lot of those people getting involved. And of course, it's passion, spelled passion, so everybody knows, because if you don't have passion, you can't do this.
That's right. Passion, 100%. I mean, this is the thing. People say, I don't have time for politics. I don't really have time to get involved. And it's, you make time for what you care about. If you care about your children, if you care about the future generations, I promise you, you will make every effort, every time slot for you to get involved, to attend these meetings, to attend school board meetings. I mean, this is the future. What happens next with this republic? I mean, Ben Franklin said, you have a republic if you can keep it. And what happens next in the United States of America is up to us. What are we going to do when it is our turn to take a chance, take a stand? So for young people to get involved, Turning Point USA, Young Women for America, there are so many different organizations that they will mobilize these young people to get involved on their college campuses, high school campuses, grassroots efforts. I know so many, candidates that are always looking for people to help door knock, make phone calls. That's a great way for young people to get involved. But ultimately, again, it starts with the parents. It starts with you as the parent getting involved and showing them what it means to stand for the truth and to stand for what is right.
Well, thank you very much. Put all your stuff in the chat so everybody can see. And we certainly appreciate you coming on. You also are on patriot.tv, which we're getting involved with everybody there. I'm having dinner with the owner tomorrow. Mark and I having dinner, so it'll be very nice. So we'll get everybody. Would like everybody to go to patriot.tv, check their programs out. Raj works with them. He produces a couple of the shows. And thank you very much for coming on.
Absolutely. God bless you guys.
Thanks. Okay, Raj, give me a little picture here.
Yeah, so there we go.
All right, so I would like everybody, if they want to email me at stern1054@gmail.com. We have millions of people watching this all over the country. We need input. One, if you know another podcast that would like to help us, we have 125 podcasters. Today, we just picked up many people who are coming on, but you got to email me with your suggestions, with anybody you would like to speak. I can't even tell you how difficult this is. During this program, we have people that I got to text back and forth, and Raj and I are working because it seems like it's easy that everybody comes on just like this, but no, people can't get on. They get emergencies. So we do this, and it's a nightmare sometimes, but it's a lot of fun. We appreciate everybody coming on. One of our guys that are helping us, yournews.com, Sam Anthony, a great guy. He's done a terrific work with me. Another person who saved this election, votefindout.org. Get their app. It's very important. And the person coming on next, he's our special guest today. And I got to say, he's one of the people that helped win this election. And he got people to vote early. He has a bus tour. He's my friend. I'm on his show. He's on my show. He is a true patriot. The guy is unbelievable. He's on the radio from 6 in the morning till 10 o'clock. He's on TV. I don't know when he sleeps. He probably gets like some of the other guys 2 hours sleep. I want to introduce the one and only John Fredericks, my very good friend. Thank you so much for coming on.
Steve, thanks for having me, and I love having you this call. So just so everybody knows, this whole event that Steve Stern is putting on, which is just masterful with so many great people, this is being broadcast on a radio network across the country, also on all of our apps, on Getter Live, Twitter Live, etc. So want to thank Steve for giving us the opportunity to do that. So we broke in the regular programming and we're carrying you guys live. And if you're in Atlanta, Nashville, Memphis, wherever you are, West Virginia, Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, you've got the show on now. So welcome everybody. But Steve, I tell you what, this has been such a team effort. It's so great to have this win that we got. I left on our Trump bus. I did a bus tour. I don't know, it started in January. It ended on election night, it seems. But just to get this, just to put this in perspective, we actually left on our bus tour on Sunday, January 2nd at 9 a.m. for Iowa from Pittsburgh. And we went to Iowa, New Hampshire, South Carolina, Florida, won all those, came back. Then we had other primaries. We went around Pennsylvania. Obviously, I ran for national delegate there, won that. So the bus was on the road. I got like 10,000 signatures on it. I want to thank everybody for signing it. But it's a team effort. And now we won. And just so everyone knows, this is going to be an historic 4-year term for the president. If you look at the speed with which he's put these cabinet nominees into place, it's breathtaking. I think it was Friday or Saturday night, I was getting an email every 17 seconds about some other nominee they put in. It was a flurry of them. But it's exciting to watch. It's going to be exciting there so that everybody knows. If you want to follow it, just a couple quick things. Ann and I just got a place, a studio in Washington, D.C. We signed the lease the day after Trump won. I'm going to be in the White House. Obviously, I'm going to have media credentials. We're going to be covering that every day. I'm going to be in D.C. during the week. So this is going to be historic. And but the thing is, the work doesn't stop here. We got 2026 coming up. We've got to make sure that we have an honest vote. The biggest concern that I've got, folks, and this is real, is that Trump voters, there's a percentage of Trump voters that only come out for Trump. We couldn't get him out of the midterms before. We couldn't get him out of the gubernatorial races. But for President Trump, they come out. They came out in 2016. A lot of them didn't come out in 2020. They came back out in force in 2024. So one of our biggest challenges in the media and on the team is how do we engage our Trump voters in 2026 in these midterms? How do we engage them to keep involved in the system and keep voting, and get involved? And that's going to be the toughest thing because history shows they're gone again. And we're not going to have Trump in 2028. So how do we get him back out then? This to me is going to be the number one, Steve, question that all of us have going forward. This is great that President Trump won. We're going to have a great 100 days, a great 2 years with him. But if the Democrats win control, a lot of this stops. Then we get mired down again. And then what do we do to have this populist movement, this America First movement, way endure beyond one term? Is it J.D. Vance? I don't know. I think it is. But we got to figure out, guys, and I'll take questions here. We've got to figure out how to motivate these Trump voters to come out in 26 and 28. Because if we don't do that, we saw what happened. They get back in and they unravel everything. Open borders again. Everything is back. Everything is going to be back to Biden. Just like they'll tear down the wall. I mean, these people are bat crap crazy. This is what they're going to do. So we got to be sure that we have a methodology here to keep our Trump voters out and to keep growing our base. The coalitions we put together were incredible. 45% of the Hispanic vote, over 20% of the African American vote, almost 25% of the Black male vote, almost 50% of the Zoomer vote, a majority of the Jewish vote in some areas, 45% overall. This is a coalition that we put together that we got to figure out, how do we keep this intact? And I'll take any questions that
Well, they
anyone
don't
has
ask
for that.
questions, but let's, you said, how are we going to keep this intact? You're out there on the road all the time speaking to people. Give us an idea of how we're going to keep this intact.
You got to keep the message out. You know, one of the biggest things here that nobody realizes, Steve, and everyone on, is the great media shakeout. I mean, nobody pays attention. We've proven that now. They don't pay attention anymore to the legacy regime media. And we proved that in 4 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, when everything collapsed. CNN is down, MSNBC is down. But beyond that, NBC, ABC, all of them, Washington Post, New York Times, all of the legacy propaganda pieces no longer had any relevance. We had fake polls coming out on Sunday by the Des Moines Register. All of that has blown up. What the media did here, folks, think about this. They ran a psyop. This is not even a real candidate. This is a candidate that got no votes, won no primaries, won no delegates. In fact, she dropped out of Iowa in December of 2020, of 2019, because she had a poll showing her getting beat in Iowa by the fortune teller, Marianne Williamson. I mean, she was getting beat by the spiritualist. This is how bad she was. She didn't win anything. So this whole thing was a psyop. They lied to us. It blew up in their face. Now it's, I don't know if you want to call it alternative media, conservative media, or just truth media. It's companies like ours that have taken over. People are coming to us now. They want the truth. They want us to tell them what's going on the various ways that we do that. Part of it is this call that we're having. So we've got to keep this message coming out. The good that we're doing, what we're doing. Hey, if it's doesn't make sense, then we got to have the moxie to call it out, right? Because any media has to hold the powers to be accountable. That includes the Trump administration. So if they start doing things that don't make sense, or they do something, we don't think fits the agenda that they promised, like anybody else, we have to call them out. We have to keep spreading the message. And as things get better, as the economy gets better, as we get out of these wars, things get better. That's got to get pushed out. So we're no longer paying attention to the fake news. One of the problems is, this is going to be a controversial statement I make. So it is what it is. You invited me on, Steve. It always happens. Controversial statement. There's a lot of clickbaiters out there on our side. You got to be very careful of conservative right-wing media organizations whose revenue is based on clickbait, sensational headlines, getting people involved, things that are not fact-checked, things that are not true. And so we're getting a lot of that on our side. I get a lot of texts and emails. Hey, John, I saw this, check this out, which is total and utter nonsense. But it's meant to click on something to serve up an ad, because that's their methodology. That's their platform to get revenue for their company. So that we have to keep an eye on that also. Anything that you get from conservative media, check it out. Be sure that it's not what I call right-wing clickbait, so that we can have an honest assessment with ourselves about what is happening, because that's part of the things that we now have to be concerned about. Our company is very different. We operate in a linear advertising model, so we're not concerned about that. But there's companies out there on both sides that if they don't get the clicks, they don't survive. And to get clicks, they have to put things on that will get people to hit the button, not necessarily accurate.
So how do people get in touch with you if they want to get in touch with you? Can you put it in the chat as well as tell them out here? And in the final couple of minutes, talk about how we were successful in early voting.
At JF Radio Show, you can follow me on all platforms. My show, The John Frederick Show, just go to johnfredericksradio.com. Ann and I own, my wife, Ann, who's the CEO, we own 22 radio stations. We just bought another 6 in West Virginia, so we're up to 20 some odd stations now. We've got all the apps. I'm on 6 to 10 a.m. Early voting turned this election. Early voting mail-in ballots. I know some people hated it, but I'm telling you, at the end of the day, if we didn't have that, we lose. You're looking at President-elect Kamala Harris. The job that our side did in embracing early voting across the country was magnificent. It blew out even our wildest expectations. And what that meant was we got our votes banked. They were already there. We didn't have to be concerned about it. But the big thing it did for us is, as every one of those early votes got in, we were able to free up limited resources that the campaign had and that the PACs had. We were able to free up limited resources and only go after those people that were softer R's or don't vote all the time, are what we call not R1 or R2, R3, R4 Republicans that maybe they only vote in the generals, or maybe they didn't vote since 2016. We were able to marshal and focus our limited resources in the last several weeks of the campaign in getting them out. That is what turned the tide here. Without that, we lose. So early voting is not going away. I know many of us hate it. We want one-day voting, paper ballots. I'm for all that. But in the meantime, we have to play the hand we're dealt. We have to play the team that's on the field. And right now it's early voting. The better we get at that, the better we get at doing the early voting, the mail-in ballots like we did in Pennsylvania. I mean, we knew, look, I was doing our election night show in Pennsylvania. We knew by 10:30 p.m. Trump was going to win. That's when we called it on our show. And how do we know that? Because we knew when the early votes were coming in Pennsylvania that they needed 750,000 game day votes out of Philadelphia. They were not getting anywhere. They were getting maybe 5, 6 max. They were not going to get 750. We knew right there they couldn't win Pennsylvania. Only because of the early voting and because of the early ballots that we sent in, we were able to do that. So early voting, here to stay. It won us. It saved America. So Steve, you or I were the two people at the beginning saying we got to do early voting. Steve Stern was spot on. Saved America, Steve Stern. Steve, you single-handedly saved the country. Now we have a future because of Steve Stern. Thank you, Steve.
Thanks, John. Appreciate it. John Mills, you're up.
Right before we bring John Mills up, just a quick message here that I want you guys to hear. So stand by here. Again, the reason I keep doing this, folks, is we literally need your support to do this. You've heard from the speakers that we have got to do even more than what we have been doing. So here is an amazing message, especially for the holidays coming up. Take a listen.
Hello.
Oh, hang on. It's coming. It's coming. Hold on. It's
Oh,
going to be great
beautiful
when it
flag
comes.
shirts are behind us. So Christmas is coming.
It's going to be great when it comes. Here you go.
I'm Steve Stern, CEO of Flagshirt.com, a third-generation, veteran-owned small business. I believe that the American way of life is for all of us. I'm asking you today to visit Flagshirt.com. Help keep the American dream alive. Be a flag waver. Carry a nation's heritage. Use coupon code ACTION10 for 10% off site-wide and buy a flag shirt today. Action, action, action.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Steve. And here we go. John Mills, thanks for your patience. And John, you are up, sir. How are you?
Raj and Steve, thank you. And Steve, my humble apologies for not wearing that awesome flag shirt. It is great. I was wearing it this weekend and didn't get it ready in time here. My apologies. It'll be ready next time. Hey, so there's basically 5 reasons or 5 topics I wanted to go over about this election. First of all, the first one, whether you want to call us conservatives or populists, and when I'm wearing my hat and talking about elections, I'm agnostic. I'm not a political person. I'm just interested in that we get things right. And so, yeah, there we go. Thank you, Raj. And the first one is Republicans, conservatives. When we win, we walk away. When we lose, we walk away. We have got to break this tendency. And as we also the populists, we have to break this tendency. And this is an enduring process. We learned a hard lesson in 2020 No matter what, you have to stay involved. And kudos to so many people who doggedly spent 4 years doing our best and our part to make sure things work. And guess what? Guess what we're going to get rewarded with? 4 more years, and actually 2 more years, and in Virginia, 1 more year. It's a perpetual process we're going to have to be involved in. You just don't push a button and you get election integrity and you walk away. That's how we got to 2020. So we have to break this tendency. So did we win in 2024? Well, yes and no. Okay, yes, President Donald J. Trump won and won decisively. Okay, great. Hooray, that's wonderful. But we had incredibly slow vote counting in the House and the Senate. And I always point the 2014 report from the Carter Center for Democracy is considered the gold standard in the conduct of elections, unless it might be a conservative or a populist who wins, I guess. Because one of the signs, one of the telltale signs of fraud is slow vote counting. That's always one of the signs of fraud. And this cost us, yes, we still won the Senate. Yes, we still won the House, but we lost a lot of seats. Hey, okay, it looks like it's going to be 53-47 in the Senate. That should have been 57-43. How about that? And then those that are the Mitt Romney types, he's gone, but those who are the Mitt Romney types, we wouldn't have to worry about whether they're going to vote the correct way or not. So, hey, we lost a number of seats, and it was the fraud of slow vote counting. Now, I went through HAVA 2002, it was mentioned earlier. I can't find anywhere in 2002 where it allows weeks and weeks and weeks of vote counting. I could not find that in HAVA 2002. So anybody find that? Please let everybody know. So yeah, we won, but we also lost, and we could have had a far greater majority. This was a lesson learned, but I think they were concerned. If you look at the macro analysis, I think they saw the surge was just too big for the primary candidate, the presidential position. And they didn't want to have to go through another one of these 2 o'clock in the morning, because I stayed up to 2 a.m. in the morning, like many of you, where we're going to see this unexplained spike again. No, we didn't. But all the down ballot races, they just couldn't count the votes. They were just, look at, this is America. We put a man on the moon. I mean, come on, we won the Cold War. We won the Second World War. This is ridiculous. We can't count votes. We're going to have to change this. Again, I just point to the 2014 report from the Carter Center for Democracy, which is the gold standard. Slow ballot counting is a sign of fraud, and we have to crush that. Now, the great victory in 2024, I don't think I've heard it mentioned yet, and this was the Virginia case that was in the Supreme Court. Now, Governor Youngkin put out an executive order shortly after the convention. I had a number of opportunities to provide input to that. I'm very honored that I would be asked to provide a lot of input to that. It was a great executive order. Some people poo-pooed it, but what it did was set up a very, very, very needed debate and resolution, because for years, even on our side, it's this debate over, and the outcome of the SCOTUS case was Virginia won, but it has far greater ramifications because it's not over, because we haven't achieved remedy yet. What the Supreme Court case settled was 1993 motor voter and the 90-day silent period where you couldn't remove names, or what many of our self-appointed election integrity experts said, and 18 U.S. Code 611. There's not that many federal laws on the conduct of voting. There's only about 5. I can't find any precedent. Bill Barr sure didn't know anything about 18 U.S. Code 611 in 2020, and it's never been resolved. What happened in that Supreme Court case was we finally had a collision, and finally the Supreme Court said, hey, 18 U.S. Code 611 trumps motor voter 1993. Yes, you can take names off at any time. And I can't tell you how many times experts told on our side, and even on this phone call, said, oh no, you can't take names off the list in 90 days in advance of election. Anybody who tells you that is dead wrong and needs to be removed from their position, especially if they're legal counsel to a GOP element at the county or the state level. And I know several who say this, even after the Supreme Court win. So huge victory, huge victory. The debate is settled. Yes, you can take individuals off the rolls at any time. If they are unlawful, they are unlawful, period. They can be taken off at any time. So the fourth point is we still have to go through a remedy process. And that's what we have. We have some of these election integrity experts that win a court case. Hey, you have to take so many dead voters off the rolls. Okay, interesting. That's good. Rarely does that come anywhere close to having any statistical significance. But what I've seen over and over again is to achieve real victory in a court case, you have to have lawyers. What is it called? Remedy. Remedy. You don't really have a win until you got remedy. So we don't actually have complete remedy because now we're going to have a court process to go through this in greater detail in Virginia on the removal of these names. And we have a lot of names in Virginia that need to be taken off. The Governor Youngkin's executive order was a small number. It was only 3,000, 4,000, something like that. Oh boy, it's a lot bigger than that. But that was the whole idea. The gauntlet, we wanted the gauntlet to be thrown down, and it was. And the SCOTUS win was huge for everybody, not just Virginia. So now what we have to do is go through this process to finalize what exactly is meant by taking a name off, and the process and the for taking a name off. Because what we have in Virginia, and likely everywhere, is we have a lot of registrars, my own registrar, who has no documentation on anything of what they received from the governor, what they did with that name, and what was the end state of that name that was given to them. It's horrible, but we're going to resolve this. So once this is resolved, and actually you can start using it now, this applies to all 50 states. So take that Supreme Court win, and my group, the NEIA, I think we were first or second filing an amicus brief. Jesse Banal, thank you, a great lawyer, worked with him, and bam, we had our amicus brief down. We were first or second. So you've got to start working this now in your state because it's resolved. Because this is the lie. It happens every election cycle. Oh, you can't take a name off. You shan't be able to take a name off because of motor voter. That's settled. Yes, you can. Now, so the fifth point is Virginia is really now the next test case for clean rolls. And guess what? Because of the oddity of Virginia elections, our next major election is not in 2026. It's November of 2025. That's when we have a gubernatorial election and also a lot of House and Senate seats at the state legislature in Richmond. So we have in Virginia 1 year to resolve this and really move forward fast. So that's a year goes by real fast, as we all know. But every state can start working this. You can take the outcome of that Supreme Court case and start working it. Because right now I have found out that has been one of the biggest deterrents. And then you combine the unlawfuls on the rolls with ballot production, industrial level ballot production, hat tip Jay Valentine. That is the toxic cancer where they tried to throw the election this time. They didn't do it, but they still were able to get a lot of House and Senate seats they should have gotten. So what is the takeaway? What is the takeaway for everybody watching and the grassroots activists? Okay, being a poll watcher, that's interesting. I want to put a whole lot of credence in that. Sorry. I think far more return on investment. Become an election officer. Be one of the ones behind the counter counting the votes. But even more important, we have to make a national priority of dominating the election boards and the all-important registrar or recorder, whatever you call it in your state. You want real impact? Be a registrar. Well, how do you do that? And the rules are a little bit different in every state, but that's where we dominate. There's roughly 3,300 registrars, recorders around the nation. This is why George Soros prizes these county level positions. And you want to really see dysfunction, go to one of these National Association of County meetings where they always have a breakout with the registrars. I've been to these meetings. Oh my, This is like 80 to 90% screaming blue wokus. Okay. And I'm just from the things they say. So that's the best return on investment. Now, in my own county, we've now been able to redo the election board with some people who are going to give very crystal clear guidance to the registrar. So that's
2
really
minutes, John.
yeah. Focus on being not just an election officer. Let's up the game even higher. Dominate the registrar and recorder position, just like Soros does. We're not focusing on this nationally. We need to dominate these 3,300 positions across the nation that are usually at the county level. There are some exceptions with Pennsylvania and Michigan. That's where the action is. And the Mount Olympus of this is being a county registrar or recorder, because they are the final determiners and arbitrators of a lot of the minutia that actually doesn't even appear in law, but it's mechanics of how elections are conducted. And that's all I have, Steve. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Now we've got Jody Cox, one of our famous podcasters who I was on her first show. She was on my second show. She was one of the most fantastic shows in the country. So make sure you put it in the chat and get to watch her show. We love you. She's very good friends of General Flynn and has really done a terrific job in getting the word out. Come on down.
Thank you, Steve. And thank you guys for having me today. So good day, y'all. I am just Jody, the founder of the Patriots Helping Patriots Network. It's a broadcasting and citizens news network that I created about 4 years ago. It consists of about 70 patriots now. We got 7 broadcasters, 10 meme artists, and 50 content creators and writers for social media. So we work media events, elections, child trafficking, advocacy, and all things God, country, and freedom. You can find us on Rumble. I'm also involved at a local level as well, right? So my husband ran for mayor on a whim and he won. And we took back a blue area after 24 years of a, mayor that had been here a really long time. So with all, together, all things really have become possible, including flipping Michigan red. So I'm going to hit on a little bit of Michigan, if you guys don't mind, with the Michigan elections. So my home state, you guys know, we've been a swing state and it's been long purple for a really long time. And in this moment right now, I am quite proud of the work that has been done here and how far we've really come. Michigan elections still have major concerns. So before I get to those concerns, I would like to point out that the 2024 election had the largest turnout in history in my area, as well in the history of Michigan elections. And as you all know, we did take Michigan back, but not without a fight and not without massive concerns. So first off, we do have a great state rep. We have a great state rep that I love, Josh Shriver. He is amazing, if I may add. So he actually visited our corrupt Soros-funded Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson's office on November 14th after the election. This office is located only at like a few blocks away from the state capitol building. He was there to request the updated voter rolls from the November 5th election, where he then discovered that the office was completely empty and the parking lot was empty. So later finds out that it had been empty since November 4th. The Michigan Secretary of State and the Michigan Bureau of Elections had literally been out of the office since the day before the November 5th election, and no one here knew about it. And no one knew if or when they were actually going to return. So, we really can't make this stuff up, folks. Like being eyes and ears everywhere is everything right now at this time. And Representative Shriver ends up leaving a note for Benson at the Secretary of State. He videos himself doing this. He leaves a note for her. He takes pictures of the empty building, the empty parking lot. And as you can imagine, this upset begins to raise a ton of eyebrows across our state. And we were all like, is this a joke? What is happening right now? Was Representative Shriver being lied to prevent him from gaining access to the Michigan quality voter files? Shriver then takes the battle over to X, you guys, because he can't get a hold of the Secretary of State in Michigan. So he tags Benson And he says this: "You said Michigan elections are more secure than ever before. If so, then why aren't you providing my office with the data that is needed to back up what you're saying?" So as a lawmaker, this data is required to inform a policy that he was working on, and it was much needed. And he couldn't even get a hold of his own Secretary of State to get the data. So later, the response is given that the Michigan Elections Bureau is working in an undisclosed location in secrecy due to some security concerns. So we dug around. We were unable to find out these security concerns, which, by the way, none of our lawmakers or our residents were actually even aware of this, security concern. So that situation, just to bring to light, is only one of the election security issues that we have had here over this last few weeks of election security. We also had 4 counties in Michigan find over 26,000 votes days after the election. We were still able to flip several seats from the Democratic seats to the Republican, including 1 Michigan House seat. And on last Friday, November 22nd, in Lansing, the bipartisan board of state canvassers finally voted unanimously to certify Michigan's 2024 general election results in each of the 83 counties. Okay, that's a big deal here. We're always one of the last states to certify. So with that being said, under Michigan law, any candidates who wish to request a recount had to do so today by Monday, the 25th. And I have yet to hear of any recounts going on. So this is another plus we have. And I would say that our election results here are probably thoroughly final now since they've certified them. I don't know how they could go back on that. Just over 5.7 million Michiganders cast ballots in this election, officially making this the highest turnout election in our state's history. I do have concerns about post-election audits, of course, right? Seems to be where we see a lot of mischief happening. So we'll be paying attention to that here as well. I will say nothing that will affect the presidential election, of course, because that was just way too big to rig. So on a positive note, in regards to our previous elections, you hear a lot about corruption in the Wayne County area. Okay, I live in southeastern Wayne County. So this is my area, right? I'd like to point out that the data in Washtenaw and Oakland County speak for themselves. And Wayne County is one that backs up to those areas. Why do they speak for themselves? Because there are always more voters in those areas than there actually are registered voters. Number one, there's not that many residents there. We have more votes there than we actually have residents. So after the 2020 election went sideways here, I interviewed a data specialist for the Michigan elections that located ballots inside of the Washtenaw County area being delivered to a mobile home park that was taken over by illegals and migrants, okay, as well as an apartment complex that they also claimed to be student housing for our Big Ten University there. And this time around, I will say this: those places were under surveillance, along with other possible locations that we thought they could do that to. And the very involved Michiganders seemed to say that none of those places were in operation. We had no traffic at any of those locations whatsoever in any of the new ones that we had scouted out. So Michigan has 83 counties. 74 of those counties took the red vote finally. So I've probably lived here my whole life. Michiganders have totally had enough. We took our state back. We absolutely refused to be lied to. And we also currently have more Republicans and conservatives serving in office and running for office than ever before. So this alone is a great path to something better here in our state. There's a lot to be done with vigilance and commitment to our area. We will get it done. And I want to say thank you to every American who took action with us over the last 4 years. It has been the most incredible journey, you guys, watching the outpouring of Americans standing up and demanding free and fair elections. I'd also like to say thank you to my friend Steve Stern and Raj Dorsme, that's right, for helping Lead the way with this election security. You have no idea how valuable you have become to each of us as leaders as well. You guys have organized thousands of people. We've reached millions because of your efforts to save our country. That is true leadership. Lots of respect there. So together, there is nothing that we cannot achieve, that we, the people, cannot achieve. We've pulled out our country out of these massive trenches, okay? But remember, our work has just begun, and the best is definitely yet to come, right? So thank you all for having me today. God bless you all. God bless POTUS 45, and God bless America.
Thank you very much.
How do people find your radio
Next up
station? How do people find your radio
Michelle Swinnick.
station?
Go to savemyfreedom.us. I love her. We've been working 4 years together. She's maybe close to working as hard as I am, but she is a treasure to Arizona. We got her up. Raj?
Yes, Michelle's coming right on. And how do people find, if you could put how people find your radio show, Jody, in the chat, people are asking.
Oh, yes. Okay. So if you go on over to Rumble, you can find me at Patriots Helping Patriots. That'll be my broadcast. I'm at Just Jody on True Social and at just_Jody7 on Twitter X. Hi, Michelle.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
All
you
right,
guys.
Michelle.
Have a great day.
You're up, Michelle. Can't hear you. Your mic is on, but I can't hear you. Try again. Nope, still can't hear you. Your mic is on, but I do not hear you.
2 seconds. There we go. How
Oh,
about
there
that?
we go. There
Yeah?
we go. There we
Yeah?
go. There
All
we
right.
go. Yep.
Yeah. So the settings and stuff are a little off in the studio because for the past 3 weeks since the November 5th election, while everybody is celebrating and partying and having a good time, I've been investigating the November 5th election in Maricopa County. Okay. Maricorruption County. So things are like a little off because we've been busy in here, been busy videotape, been busy watching, been busy documenting. Okay. And in Maricopa County, everybody, we have seen massive fraud. Okay. Massive fraud. I think it's fun. Everyone said everything was fine. No, it wasn't fine. No, it wasn't fine. In addition to the massive fraud. Okay. Now, meanwhile, for those of you who've been following for 2 years that I've been exposing and explaining how our election system our operation works nationwide, and it's showing you the actual official election records and returns for the past 11 months of Maricopa County for the 2022 election, 2022 election general, 2020 election general, and the 2024 illegal election that was in our primary was just in August, okay, July 30th. So not only are it's coming maladministration, you're gonna love this new list, okay? So not only is the fraud massive, okay? There's misconduct at a whole new level. There is maladministration in a different way. There is criminal fraud and premeditation. Okay. So we've been putting it all together. But like I said, for those of you who've been watching all this time or paying attention, but why Maricopa? Because nobody holds them accountable and they know they can do whatever they want because the Republicans and the MAGA leaders here have no problem allowing this to occur and they enable it. That's why. So, somebody asked the question, watch the chat. Okay, it just popped up. I had to say it. So so we're going to bring all this information to, but this is what I was going to say. So you know that that normally some of the stuff that we've gotten some public records requests out of it, haven't had one to do one yet. I mean, I'm putting on them all so I could get all the documents, but all this information is publicly available on the Secretary of State's and Maricopa County's website since November 5th. Each day, they were showing you what they were doing. They were telling you what they were doing. It was available to everybody. Okay. You just had to look, and we warned everybody. We said, this is how they do the elections. This is how they're going to keep doing the elections. And there's a show, you can watch it to get a preview, episode 323. And I did it on SG's show, laid out exactly what they had done in 2022. And you showed you the exact places to look, showed you exactly what to be aware of. Okay, this was a message to the candidates too, so they could file their election contests with the correct data and win this time. And we showed you for 2024. So what we're doing tomorrow at 12:30 p.m. Mountain Time. Let me share the screen share here. You put me on screen share there, Raj. Screen share. How do I share? How do I share?
Yes, you can screen share anytime you want. Go ahead and click the share button.
Where is it in? What's it in?
The green share button will be at the
Oh, I
bottom of
see
your
it.
Zoom program.
Okay. So I am sharing the screen.
There we go.
Okay. So I have updated my graphic. Can you see this? I have added, not only was there the 2022 guys.
We only see 3 small tiles. I don't know if you want to click on any one of them in particular. There you go.
Can you see that?
Not yet.
One big one?
Not,
Oh,
don't
it's
see
because
it yet.
it's got to share. Hang on, let me unshare. So, all right. So what I'm going to do is I'll unshare and then I will, oh, here it is. The wrong one. There we go. Okay. So not only that we have 2022 now, and you have 2020, we already showed you how Trump won Arizona. And there's no disputing that. Then 2024, we've added that. So tomorrow at 12:30.
When a man hits a target.
I don't know where that's coming from. At 12:30 p.m. Mountain Time, 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Ann Vandersteel is going to host me, and I'm going to show everybody what happened in 2024. Okay. This is criminal. Okay. And this affects all of the races in Maricopa County. And don't worry, because you're going to say, Michelle, if you're going to file an election contest, which I am, okay, I've been working on it, and I'm working on it this week. It is due by Friday. I'm filing election contests to contest many, many races, okay, because you're dealing with hundreds of thousands, over 100,000 ballots were affected at least. And I'm going low end because I don't want to say the number that we already know. Okay. So I'm going to be filing an election contest to contest the elections. And you say, Michelle, don't do that because it's going to hurt Trump. Arizona didn't participate in the election for President Trump because he got his 270 before we even released our second batch of results on the 6th. So don't worry about it affecting anything to do with President Trump. Okay. We're going to focus on it finally, maybe getting people to realize and understand how our election system operation works and how corrupt and fraudulent and maladministrative full it is. Okay. Because keep in mind, even though our guy won and a lot of other races won, that was the results, okay? The counties still control the results. They determine who is the winners, okay? So we don't know if Trump got the amount of votes that he got in Maricopa County because you cannot audit these elections. There's no chain of custody for the ballots. They didn't count the ballots in Arizona, which was required by law, and how many leave the voting centers for election day. So you have no idea. And they don't count how many ballots leave the building for early ballots, okay? During the early voting. That's 27 days of this. So you have no idea how many ballots are floating around. You only know what the county tells you. You're going to see tomorrow in this show. We're only going to do for an hour. We're going to jam pack it in. So you can go and you're going to see. You cannot trust the results. You cannot audit the results. There is no chain of custody. You have yet another illegal election here in Maricopa County. It is our 8th since the March 2020 presidential preference election in 2020. This is number 8. You had 3 in 2020, 2 in 2022, and 3 now in 2024. So you can watch the live stream on Everything Home T, which is on Twitter. You can head on over to my Rumble channel, which is Save My Freedom, and it is going to be episode 327 after it finishes the live stream tomorrow. So Ann Vandersteel has been kind enough to host me tomorrow. We're going to show you what they did for 2024, and I'll give you a little nugget. Now, what you're going to see for 2024, it's their own documents again. This is not an opinion. This is not a theory. This is pure math, okay? And it is their own information, their own numbers. The math does not lie, okay? Why no one has noticed this, I've run out of reasons and I really don't care at this point, right? I'm doing this for the people. That's why we followed the lawsuits for the people. And if you go to savemyfreedom.us, that is the Substack. I encourage you to click on that. If you want to understand how the elections work, you just got to watch any of the past episodes for the past 11 months. Okay. Start with 323. That gives you a good little summary. There's 40 of them if you want. I put them in order of the most important to go ahead and watch and learn. Because if you don't understand how the system works, you can't fight against it. You can't stop it. You can't dismantle it, because there are no safe elections. There's no free and fair. They're not secure. There's no such thing as integrity. You have complete manufactured and manipulated crime scenes for all these elections. And we, the people, this is why you get your sticker, guys. When we go vote, what do? We have coloring contests on fancy paper, and we get a sticker because they want us to know we did a good job. Okay. That's how it works. And if we want it to keep going, just keep doing the same thing over and over. Go ahead. Again, that's why I vote harder. It's not a strategy. Okay.
2 minutes, Michelle, 2 minutes.
All right. So here's what we're doing. All right. So because of 2022 and 2024 and all the data, massive amounts of data, okay, that could put people in prison and dismantle the system. We're going to file. I'm filing pro se because I can't find an attorney. Trust me, for the past couple of months, I have called all of those constitutional attorneys, and there's not one. Okay, there's not one. I have a couple people that we're going to work on. That's for the election contest. I will be contesting the Maricopa County election. Then that is due this Friday. Okay. So if you can help out, that would be great, because after that's filed, I'm going to be filing additional lawsuits regarding fraud and maladministration and a whole other different angles. Okay. Going back to 2022 and both elections in 2024. So if you could throw us a bone, that'd be great. GiveSendGo.com/SaveMyFreedom. And then after that, here's what needs to happen. The American people, you guys need to push this content out. You need to talk about it. And you need to hold the MAGA leaders accountable, okay? Hold the leaders accountable for not doing anything to address this, all right? Because I'm trying to unscreen share. I don't know how to get this out. So, stop sharing. So that's what needs to happen. Hold the leaders accountable, everybody that you gave money to, the people that lost, the people that won, the groups, podcasters, influencers, you hold them accountable. You say, here's what happened. We can't let it happen yet again, because all I'm doing is repeating myself, giving a little bit more information and changing the date, right? I'm just changing the date, and it's the same: election fraud, maladministration, misconduct. And it's the official election records, returns, and documents for Maricopa County.
Thank you, Michelle. We'll get you on again in 2 weeks. Take care.
Bye,
Have a
guys.
nice Thanksgiving. Greg,
You
stay
too.
strong.
Thank you.
You got it.
Greg, you
No.
are on. Welcome to the show.
Hey, how you doing? Raj, would you rather me share my screen? I can click. I had two quick videos that I'd
Sure.
like people to watch. I'll just share my screen then.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome to share your screen. If you share your screen with a video, just make sure you click on the share audio part so we can hear your video as well.
Okay, let's see if this works. Hold on. I'll bring them up. I'd like you. Can you see this one? It's 2 minutes
Yes,
long.
CNN.
Yeah, this is the start of the video. I'm gonna just play. This is still rough cut. It'll go out tonight, but I wanted to get some feedback on this call. So let me know if you can hear the audio. I'm gonna start it now. Yes,
No
on the
audio.
audio?
No audio.
No audio?
No
How do I
audio.
get, huh?
Just stop the share.
I stop the
Stop the
share.
share. Uh-huh.
Okay, hold on.
Stop the share.
Trying to figure out how to do that. 1 second.
Yeah, click the same green share button at the bottom.
Yeah.
No, you're still sharing. You can stop the share.
And say, oh, share sound. I got it.
There you go. There you go. Good.
Thank you.
And share it again.
Okay.
Try it again.
Sorry. So share it. Thank you.
I'll
Thank
bring the video back on.
Okay, here we go. Thank you for being so quick on that.
Sure.
I just have to.
Not
Here we
seeing
go.
it yet. There we
Oh,
go.
Okay, here we
It's- I
go.
see-
2 videos,
uh-huh.
guys. They'll be quick.
The presidential election is over.
We're good. We're
But the
good.
fight for fair elections is just beginning. Imagine this. It's the morning after Election Day. You believe your vote counted, only to hear that thousands of mail-in ballots mysteriously surfaced overnight, flipping key races.
On election night, there was a vote dump at 4 o'clock in the morning. That vote dump was 108,000 alleged mail-in ballot votes that lost the election for Republican candidate Eric Hovde. He was up getting congratulatory messages at 1 o'clock. Does this sound familiar?
The Democrats have staked their future on flooding the population with thousands of mail-in ballots. In 2021, President Biden issued an executive order directing federal agencies to prioritize voter registration efforts. Touted as a measure to protect voting rights, officials raised red flags, including Mississippi's Secretary of State, who warned the directive is being used to register illegals and ineligible felons.
The core of the problem is qualified electors versus registered voters. Being a registered voter doesn't always mean you're a qualified elector. A qualified elector is someone who meets specific legal requirements. They must be a U.S. citizen, 18 years or older, live in the district where they're voting, and not be disqualified by law. A registered voter is simply someone listed in the voter registration system. But here's the problem. Registration doesn't guarantee that they meet qualifications to vote.
But this distinction is what the Democrats exploit when they fight for all ballots to be counted, legal or not. The Democrats may have lost the presidency, but their schemes undermined key Senate and House races, neutering the momentum of Trump's agenda. They will not stop until they have total control. So we must continue to fight. The battle is just beginning. Brought to you by ParallelElection.com.
And we have a second video.
On November 5th, the people spoke loud and clear, delivering an epic landslide victory for President Donald J. Trump and the Republicans. But 2 weeks later, ballots were still being counted as the Democrats plotted to steal the Senate seat from decision desk winner Dave McCormick.
They're breaking the rules to overturn the results.
In a brazen act of defiance, Democratic officials in Philadelphia, Bucks Center, Montgomery, and Delaware County decided to ignore the law to help incumbent Senator Bob Casey cling to power.
Stupid thing to not count someone's vote simply because they didn't, date an envelope for a ballot.
Bucks County Commissioner Diane Ellis Marcelia said the quiet part out loud.
Because I think we all know that precedent by a court doesn't matter anymore in this country, and people violate laws anytime they want.
The people of Pennsylvania were having none of her lies.
You need to be fired.
Compared to all of you, being called garbage doesn't seem to be so bad.
Meanwhile, in Delaware County, patriots like Greg Stenstrom and Leah Hoops stood up to the Delco Board of Elections and warned them that counting unqualified votes is a felony, and each illegal vote is a 5-year prison sentence.
Again, you conflate the difference between registered voter and qualified elector. Miss Winterbottom does not have the statutory authority to approve someone as a qualified elector. The only ones with that statutory duty is you.
The BOE blinked, forcing them to stop counting, and Bob Casey to concede. The Patriots won. This isn't just about one Senate seat. This is about Democrats trying to hobble the incoming Trump presidency. With a razor-thin majority in the Senate, every seat flipped to a Democrat makes it easier for Trump haters to derail the America First agenda. It's been over 2 weeks since the election, but states like Arizona and California continue to count ballots. We call on all patriots in these states to fight against the Democrats counting illegal votes until their preferred candidate is declared the winner. This was not how our framers intended elections to be run. We must continue to fight for elections devoid of corruption.
Fight, fight, fight.
Brought to you by ParallelElection.com.
And I want to end that share. Second. How do I end the share? There we go. So my back.
Are your shares back on?
Yep. Oh no, I'm just back in the video. I just have different lights today, so I have an looks like I have an excellent tan. But those two videos, you're able to.
You're still sharing your screen.
Oh, sorry. How do I?
Click on the green share button at the bottom, and there should be an end share button there.
It just says share.
Okay, stand by.
Oh, wait, end share. That's
there
it?
we go. Great.
Right.
I can see you. Great
Thanks.
video. Great video. People are looking for the links, by the way, to that video.
I'm gonna I'll put them in here. See, they'll be coming out. Actually, there's a mistake. These were right up to the minute, hot off the press. There's a couple of mistakes. I'll be sharing them. They'll be on Twitter. They'll be on Leah Hoop's feed, Twitter, Patriot.online, parallel election later on today. You're the first to see them. I only have a few minutes here, but one of the things that we've done that I think that we've done a poor job at is informing the public. The first thing that really people need to understand is, where did 20 million votes go on election night? How did Biden get 81 million, and on an election night, Kamala Harris had 61 million? And what people need to realize is they never existed at all. The best evidence of massive election fraud in the past 4 years was the election on November 5th. Victory has 1,000 fathers, and defeat's an orphan. Leah Hoops, myself, and many of the people here on this call, which is why I love being on these calls, were among the orphans and called the election deniers for the past 4 years. 3 things won this past election. Number one is President Trump. President Trump by himself, won the election for himself by sheer, I'm going to say magnificence, and just go on with that. He's a magnificent candidate. The second thing that won was the grassroots ground game and podcasts like Steve Stern's and the efforts of the people on this call, the grassroots people who ran a ground game. I just listened to Michelle Swinick, Molly Hornick's been here before, Cody, I'm sorry I didn't get all the names, but I've got Jody Cox. The ground games that they talk about are what won the election. And what won the election was same-day election voting, which exceeded 80% across the country. 80% election day voting. Had that not happened, the fraudulent MIBs that were submitted, we've reflected in this call, and rigged election machines would have taken the election and given it to Kamala Harris. Here in Pennsylvania, the group I work with, Leah Hoops, myself, and I work with quite a number of people that are on this call, we don't pontificate, we litigate, pro se. And what you saw in that video is registered voters do not equal qualified electors. That is something that needs to be communicated to the people over and over again. And what we also found here was election machines across Pennsylvania were not certified, they were not tested, and by the EAC and FEC rules and federal law were not allowed to be used, and yet they were used. We're fighting that in court. I'm a computer scientist, an engineer. I'm good at math, and the math doesn't add up again. So I heard several of the people here saying, too big to rig and everything won this. That early voting was the key. That was absolutely not the math. There were 700,000 less early votes in Pennsylvania from 2020. We cut them in half in Delaware County, Montgomery County, Chester County, Bucks County, Western counties. We cut them in half. And I heard Heather Honey mention, Karen Fritz, Pat Bleasdale, Laura Lewis. These letters that went out to voters to take them off the voter rolls really confounded a lot of the counties because they did not know who they could not vote for. It was a very important effort. Efforts like in Montgomery County and across southeast Pennsylvania, where we had video surveillance of drop boxes, which Michelle just mentioned they were doing in Maricopa, significantly mitigated election fraud, and it was a cat and mouse game. You're going to be seeing a video of that this week of dozens of videos we have of ballot box stuffing and other videos where we stopped them. So the other thing we did was multiple court challenges where we informed election officials that they would be subject to 5-year prison terms if unqualified electors were counted. That includes Molly Hornick's cases from United Sovereign that have, most of which have not been heard, and ours. And what we've seen in the last 2 weeks is a flurry of activity from courts trying to quash these cases and lawyers now trying to quash these cases. They were successfully obstructed by clerks of courts unlawfully by judges who were Biden and Obama nominated federal judges. These cases were quashed uniformly across the country, right here in Pennsylvania. We've accused these judges of judicial misconduct, and there will be a reckoning. We
Greg,
watched.
2 minutes, Greg.
Thank you. We watched the centralized counting centers, and they couldn't breathe without people watching them in the counties across Pennsylvania. These were grassroots people. We had some of the RNC and some people show up the night of the election, but we were already there and we were watching and we understood what we were watching. So the poll watcher training, which, by the way, the RNC did help quite a bit with poll watcher training. So I want to give kudos there where kudos are owed. But it was the grassroots that helped the most, at least in Pennsylvania. In Delaware County, Kamala got 60,000 votes in 2024, where Biden got 120,000 in 2020, all of which were from fraudulent mail-in ballots. Trump got 20,000 in both 2020 and 2024. So the needle didn't budge as far as early voting for President Trump, but it was cut in half for Kamala. So what we're doing now, and we need to work towards, is getting rid of the centralized counting centers, go back to decentralization, okay? And we need to go after the Senate and the House seats that were flipped in states that were less attentive or less fortunate that they were here in Pennsylvania. We're in court tomorrow. We challenged the certification here. We challenged that they did certify the vote today, despite our best efforts. We filed a case. We have a court hearing tomorrow. The SCOTUS case we have to have the DOJ rescind their unlawful policy of investigation is in motion. We have federal cases saying that they can't use qualified electors or unqualified electors or uncertified machines. And to close this, the uniparty, which wants the status quo. Everything's fine. Trump won, right? Everything's good. So now we're just going to keep going, and we're going to torpedo President Trump's presidency by installing under the undercards people in Congress and the Senate that will work against him. We're not going to let that happen. Last thing, December 9th in Harrisburg, Stenstrom and Hoops versus the former Secretary of the Commonwealth Book Farr. It's the last remaining case of massive election fraud from 2020. That'll be heard in oral arguments on December 9th in Harrisburg. We'd love to have everybody that's here that can show up within shouting distance, show up, make your voices be heard and hear what we have to say there. And we're going to continue to fight for fair and open and transparent elections. It's the only way that President Trump will continue to succeed and have a successful presidency.
Thank you very much, Greg. We appreciate it. Now we're going to hear from Precinct Strategy from Jonathan Broadbent, who works with myself and with Dan Schultz. Come on down.
Hey guys, mic check. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Awesome. So actually, those were great commercials, Greg. I want to figure out who does your video and get a couple for Precinct Strategy. You actually gave me a great segue for what I want to talk about today, and that's when you talk about ground game and grassroots. I'm the founder and creator of Unwoke.Academy, and like everybody else in this space, I imagine I'm one of those people that just got frustrated and fed up a long time ago and just sort of threw my hat in the ring as a family man, a dad, a husband, and just a regular old American. And I started fighting against K through 12, the woke stuff, pretty quickly figured out that our elections have gone off the rails. And I stumbled into knowledge and understanding of something called Precinct Strategy. Dan Schultz is on this space as well. I want you to find Dan Schultz and follow him. I'm going to give you 2 Twitter X handles and encourage you to follow, because we are the ground game. We are the grassroots ground game. In my estimation, I am so blessed and thankful to have stumbled onto the Precinct Strategy. I deployed it and am now fighting back from within. I want to give you the Cliff's Notes version because unfortunately in the US, we gave up on teaching civics decades ago. I was not, unfortunately, the benefactor of an adequate US government and civics course in K through 12 education, but I learned drinking from the fire hose later. One of the things that we lack as American citizens is a basic understanding of how our system of government is supposed to work. We talk a lot about we the people, government of the people, by the people, and for the people, but it's not until you start learning about precinct strategy and start adopting local government and taking the reins, becoming the voice of local government, that you learn what that truly means. And now it's said that the most powerful position in politics is your local central committeeman. Now, I want to be clear about what this means and sort of paint the picture. And I'm going to encourage you to join Dan Schultz and me as we lead spaces twice a week. That's Tuesday afternoons at 2 p.m. every Tuesday, every Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern time. Find us on X. I'm going to give you those two handles in just a moment. Come into these spaces and bring people with you. Also, go to precinctstrategy.com. That's the website. Dan created that. He's got the podcast, the book, walks you through, gives you the waypoints. Here's the deal. The reason that precinct committeeman strategy is referred to as the most powerful yet hidden position in all of US politics is because that is where the rubber meets the road. And I can't possibly overstate the importance of getting involved locally. Here's what it looks like, and here's really, in my view, now that I've deployed the precinct strategy and I've become an elected central committeeman within the Republican Party, I know for some people that description, that choice of words may sound odd. What in the world is a central committeeman or a precinct captain or a ward captain? Depending on your state, they may use slightly different terminology, but that position is fundamental. When we talk about these things like getting free, open, transparent, and fair elections, or any issue you can think of, if you're worried about First Amendment or K through 12 education or Second Amendment, all of these issues become fair game for us, we the people, to fix virtually overnight when we reclaim the Republican Party and give voice back to we the people. That's what precinct strategy is all about. In my little, I'm going to give you the high level synopsis. When you join our space, you get more of the story. I'm going to give you more cool details. You're going to love it. We've got major successes under our belt now that we share on a regular basis. I'm one of 22 people that gathered in a group in my county and ran together. 18 of us won. Where does that come in to play with elections and election integrity? With election integrity, when you're communicating with your county board of elections or your state secretary of state, and you're talking about whether or not to use the machines or who gets to audit or what people come up through the ranks and achieve those high offices, it's the central committee that decides those people. You put yourself in the driver's seat. So unfortunately, we've had decades of lethargy. We've got places like Corruption County. Good to see you again, Michelle. Corruption County, where unfortunately we the people kind of took our eyes off the prize. We took our hands off the reins, and a lot of bad people got into positions of power. The only way to overcome them, we see corrupt courts, we see corrupt judiciary, we see corruption throughout our political system on both sides of the aisle. The only way, and I'll tell you, I've researched all of it. It's why I threw my hat in the ring and why for over a year now, Dan and I have held these spaces on X. I don't see anything nearly as powerful as precinct committeeman strategy. It's endorsed by President Donald J. Trump. February of 2022, Trump came out and endorsed the precinct committeeman strategy. If you're at all on the fence or wondering what this is about, or thinking that maybe it's not as powerful as I'm trying to outlay for you here, go back to February of 2022. Trump endorsed it. Unfortunately, he has not been as vocal as we would hope, encouraging people to get involved. But here's one sort of tell. You've heard the old adage, when you see something on the news, I'm air quoting that, like mainstream CNN and stuff, when you see something happening on the news, look for the real news behind it. There's a reason that nobody in the swamp uniparty cabal talks about precinct committeeman strategy. They'll talk all around it about people getting involved and donating and becoming an elections official. That, by the way, by all means, become an elections official. But first, before you do that and before you do anything else, and as soon as you sign off this call, start taking the steps to figure out who your local representative is in the Republican Party. And if it's one of those seats that's empty, it's about half of the seats throughout the United States, just nobody has bothered to even put their hat in the ring and run. That's the weakness. That is where we have been crushed by the uniparty cabal. If and when we, the people, become activated and motivated and fill these spaces throughout the country, take these seats, when we become America first and we assert ourselves, we put MAGA into all of these seats, we flip and replace the rhinos. By the way, I started Ohio Rhino Hunters. If you're in Ohio, come find me. But get rid of these rhinos, all of these issues, the machines, the audits, the ballot counting, chain of custody. Thank you again, Michelle, for tracking those issues.
Jonathan,
All
2
of the
minutes.
issues that we talk about can be flipped and fixed virtually overnight when we reclaim. So we're talking about getting rid of the uniparty cabal and giving voice and vote back to we the people. I personally, and I'd be happy to engage in some conversation if people think there's a better approach. Personally, I don't think there's anything with nearly the power and influence and immediacy of reclaiming the Republican Party from within. One last piece on that. I do get people, we had somebody on who's running for office from a third party on just last Friday's call. Again, that's Tuesday afternoons at 2 p.m. Eastern and Friday evenings at 9 p.m. Eastern time. Somebody from the Libertarian Party joined, and that's great. We like the Libertarians. They're pretty close to MAGA on a lot of things. So they're welcome into the conversation. But here's the thing. They don't have the power, money, influence, or resources to match the uniparty cabal. They have a chokehold on politics in the United States. Assuming, as I do, the Democrat Party has morphed itself into the Communist Party, that leaves us one option. We, the people, need to reclaim the Republican Party from within and give it back to we, the people. That's
Jonathan,
what precinct
time.
strategy does.
That's Mike Lindell to come on. Thank you very much, Jonathan. Appreciate it. We'll get you on again.
Thanks.
You got it. Raj, can you get him on?
I see 2 people that are in here on a phone. If you could start speaking, you may have to hit *6 on your phone, Mike Lindell. Mike Lindell, if you could hit *6 on your phone.
Yeah, he was having a problem in the studio. He went to his iPhone.
Copy that. Okay.
Tell me you were on.
Stand by. Okay, I'm going to try something else.
All
I'm going to unmute everyone, but
He needs to mute him. He needs to mute him.
I'm going to unmute everyone. Stand by.
There we go. Can you hear me? Hello?
We hear you.
All right.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Am I just going to start talking then? Or is that-
Yeah, go ahead, Mike, and start talking. He's muted everyone, so the entire board is all muted.
Mike, we can hear you. Go ahead and start.
Okay. Okay. So I'm sorry, you guys, I didn't see the beginning part of this. I guess the theme is the election, obviously our elections. I want to say, yeah, I'm kind of shooting from the hip here. Raj, can you tell me what am I just telling what I thought happened and what I think what direction we need to go? Could somebody?
Yeah, Yeah, absolutely, Mike. So first, thanks for being on, and thanks for everything that you've been doing. I think some of the questions are now, where do we go from here?
Okay.
So,
Got it.
and in particular, people see that President Trump won, but so much of the down ballot did not win. I don't know if you all.
Okay, I got it. All right, everybody. Here's the deal. About 2 weeks before the election, I was basically 99.9% sure our great real president Donald Trump was going to win. Here's why. I always look at things like, what if I was evil's marketer? And when I say evil, I'm talking about the uniparty, the deep state, the globalists, not necessarily the Democrat Party. You guys all know how I talk. This is the evil entity that's out there. As we all know, we fought uniparty Republicans probably more than anybody else. So I knew this was going to happen. Why did I know? Because I looked at it from being their marketer. I thought, you know what? They're caught. They brought in this candidate. It's impossible. Even the polls, in order to steal an election, you have to convince the public through polls and other things, even if they're fake polls, that it could happen. Well, there's no way they could have done that because of an extra 10 to 15 million votes they would have had to steal to make it look smooth over across the whole country. So by them not being able to do that, and they, and if they did it, it wouldn't have been a civil war. What would have happened is it would have been instant. It's over. They're going to lose these machines. People are going to call them out, but they want accountability. It would have been just. We would have got to the bottom of it probably faster than we are now, to be honest with you. So what I would have done if I was their marketer, I would have said, you know what, let's give them Donald Trump, and we're going to steal the down tickets, and we're going to still give them the House, which they did. They got enough rhinos over there. They got enough, and as you know, that there's different races all over the country, California, Arizona, Pennsylvania, these places. Where they went after the down tickets, but basically you're kind of telling, hey, let's hit the pause button here. We'll just attack him for the next 2 years, and in 2026 we'll go in for it. And we'll steal back the House or the Senate, maybe both, and then this will be one big just kind of a break because they were caught. They were caught in 2020, and now with our voice being so much bigger. And that's where they couldn't do the steal. You guys, I've said this before, and I will tell you what we've won. What we have won is, remember I said this is the biggest crime, the biggest cover-up of the biggest crime in history. We have beat the cover-up. The cover-up we beat. We busted through that. And what I mean by that is people got their information. They were not able to cover it up again. If they would have taken it, they couldn't have done it. Because of all the information platforms now, podcasts, all the different social media, from Frank Speech to Vocal to Truth Social, Getter, Gab, Elon Musk, that big voice, that's a little miracle there that we have Elon's X instead of crooked Jack Dorsey's Twitter. So our voice, by getting bigger, it was virtually, I want to say, it would have been very foolish of them to try and take the president's election. They took the down tickets. I don't care what anyone said. They did. They stole a lot from him at the presidential level, but they didn't have. They might not have even touched that hardly at all. Now that you look at it, because it did drop. I think it dropped back down. There's no way they could explain. You've all seen the charts with the Democrat, and then the 83 million, and then back to 65 million. We've all seen that. They would have needed even more. So I think. And I was there on election night. We went from Mar-a-Lago over to the convention center. And at the convention center, everybody, I was surrounded by Politico, the Washington Post, ABC, Huffington Post, I believe, and the New York Times. They were all women. They surrounded me. They're all reporters there. And they just pounced on me. And the first thing they said, well, Mike, now that your friend Donald Trump has won, are you going to stop talking about these elections? And do you think that this was a fair election? My answer was very simple. I said, you guys know me better than that. And I said, you know what I'm standing for. And I said, I'm going to tell you this. just like I've said before, I don't trust any election, knowing what I know and knowing what I've seen that's ever done with computers or electronic voting machines. And I said to them, over 132 countries have banned electronic voting machines. We have to save our country and get to paper ballots and count it. And then I thanked them. I said, you know what? Because of you all, it might be easier now because you have attacked me and others relentlessly for almost 4 years now. And by doing that, we were able to get the word out in spite of Fox News and Newsmax and others that don't talk about the election platforms. I said, so you all helped get our great real president, Donald Trump, elected. And they all went, no, we didn't do it. We didn't do that. What are you talking about, Mike? I said, well, yeah, because you overplay your hand. Evil overplays her hand. Remember, everybody, evil is greedy. That's what we have on our side. I am very surprised that they took a step back. They were so greedy in trying to just destroy our country over the last 3.5 years. And I'm in a way surprised. I didn't think they'd be that smart the way they did it here. And they basically let the president go through without stealing it like they did in 2020, but then stealing these down tickets. So what does that tell us? Well, that tells us our work has just begun. It's like a new season. We beat the biggest cover up. That's over. Everybody's aware now. Everybody is aware that we have to get rid of these machines. But the problem we're up against now is people in compliance. Is the RNC going to get compliant now and go, wait, we're going to just sit back and boy, we won. So boy, it worked good that we went all out there for early voting and mail-in ballots, and we went out there and did this and this. If you've seen a thing, everybody, by Joe Hoff the other day, it explains exactly what I'm telling you right now. That's all rubbish. It's all rubbish. Early voting and mail-in voting, we got by with it this time because it was like this too big to rig. But it wasn't that they could have easily added to that Democrat thing. Easily with the one push of a button with the computer, but it would have been exposed. We would have been opened up. So I think it's up to us. It's up to many things that we've got to take advantage of what we know, and we have to take advantage of what the successes that are out there. One of the things I heard, and I'll take South Dakota, for instance. Everyone knows we've had more pushback in South Dakota. It's been disgusting with Monet Johnson and everything that's went on there to get CASPO records. We were never able to get any there. It's been a battle like no other where each county could have voted out the machines. There was pushback on that. Well, a couple of things happened is, from what I've heard, all of our choices are put in there now. So we don't have a lot of these uniparty Republicans will be the minority there. And then also I heard that the governor's replacement, I've heard good things about him. So I'm just using this for an example that when we go in, let's say that's a state where actually one time Governor Kristi Noem told me that South Dakota would be the first state to go machine free. She even picked out the location for the cyber symposium. And flash forward a couple of years later, we're getting all this pushback and it just didn't make sense. So all the precinct committee men and women that we got in South Dakota, remember they tried to take away their right to vote there. All of you on that were that. I mean, that was a huge victory we won there at that time by them not being able to do that. But what I'm saying is, so you take a South Dakota and our team's on the ground there, and you go into South Dakota, and you now should be able to push the same things we did before, but this time we shouldn't have any pushback. We shouldn't have any pushback. And you start getting examples of having a whole state that's machine free, and a whole state that is what we need to get to, which is at the precinct level and paper ballots hand counted and without these machines. Then you have different places. Any successes we've had out there, though, like whether it be California or Hawaii, all the stuff that we gathered right before this election, it's all sitting there with the Election Crime Bureau. It's sitting there with our the information we have. I would say now you're going to see, we have 2 years. I see 2 years, less than that. Let's just put it at a year and a half. There should be more things happen over the next year and a half here that we're going to get to where we need to get to. The only thing we don't have is the people out there that say, well, Donald Trump won. What are you talking about? All you got to do is campaign harder and take part in that early voting. We've got to get around that narrative and buy that. And I've been watching you guys' social media posts and stuff. One thing tonight is that they having a thing, said Sean Smith tonight. We're having an X, I know, on to talk about that tonight on X Spaces. What's that?
Cause of America's Twitter.
Cause of America. We're doing that tonight. Is it on their website or on their thing?
It's on Twitter.
It's on Twitter, Cause of America. But anyway, so I'm just saying we can't, there's still, I think they're still counting in California for all I know. That they I know where do they go?
Twitter. Cause of America,
I know
Twitter.
The Cause of America Twitter. So like things like this, we have to not stop educating people out there that, hey, this just didn't win. We don't want a Band-Aid. We don't want 4 years where Donald Trump takes everything, secures our economy against, brings the shipping prices lower, consumer confidence at all-time high. One of the things we had, everybody, that we won here, that being able to break on through the biggest cover-up was because people were living pretty bad the last 4 years. They're watching our country get destroyed. Now we're going to be watching everything good happening in that way with our president there. So we might lose people over here going, oh, you guys, it's fine. It's fine. We can't get complacent. We absolutely cannot get complacent. It's just like when we talk about the greatest revival in history for Jesus Christ, it was very easy the last 3.5 years, people looking for hope. Well, now all of a sudden things turn here physically, and people are going to be going, oh, all is well, all is well. People don't reach out for hope unless things are going bad usually, or they don't get activated like they were in things unless things are going bad. But we can't let them stop us. It's more urgent now than ever. We've only broke through one part of this. We broke on through the cover up. Now we have all that where we have the outlets. It's easier now. It should be easier to get the news out. We're still not going to have the Foxes and Newsmax of the world until we start winning big cases against these companies, which is coming. Trust me. You start getting that coupled with problems that we have where we're going to be able to get our information out there. But we really need an example, and not just a couple of counties or a couple hundred counties across the country. We need a whole state. That would be so cool and that's going to be one of the first things I want to get as many to say, hey, we can function without this, but then you've got to take every reason for them not to say no out of the equation, and we will do that. We already have, all of us have set it's cheaper, it's actually faster, and it's definitely more accurate, and it takes away everybody's fear for a transparent election. And so that's where I'm at. That's right. And that's where we all need to be. We can't sit back because and one person can't do it all. And Steve, I know I want to thank you for everything you've done these last years. I'll tell you what, the precinct with it was like all of us together, the different entities working together. And I bring up South Dakota, you guys, all the work that was done there to get these precinct committee men and women. If you guys are new to this, they tried to take away their right to vote in South Dakota, and we beat that a couple years ago. And so it's a little victory can end up being such a big victory, everybody. But everything that was done the last 4 years, nothing will be done in vain. Even though our president is there, other stuff you think, well, that doesn't matter. Donald Trump's elected. No, you're going to look back and say, wow, we needed this for this, or we needed this for this. And I'm really excited. I think, and we will have, I think as we go along here, we'll have a little better plan of action. I'm waiting to hear stuff from this administration, what kind of things going to be set up internally there, and a big entity that really needs, we've got to get rid of CISA, or either that or other people run it, like maybe everybody on this call. We need stuff put in place, a plan put in place. And but right now, I think we're in a transition here where we're still gathering all this information, and we will have that plan, a great plan going forward, because we've won in a big way, like I say, breaking through. And now we've got to take, when you have something happen that happened in 2020, not only take that, but you've got to take it apart. And because of what happened, the eyes that got open, everything was a part of it. And when we get to this great place we're going, once again, we're going to be able to look back and say, wow, that had to happen just the way it did. But we can't get complacent, and we've got to keep going. And we're halfway there, everybody.
Oh, you're muted, Steve. You're muted. Steve, you're muted.
Thanks a lot, Mike. Have a happy Thanksgiving. We'll have you on again for the last one before Christmas. And our last speaker is Linda Sinkowitz, one of the stars of this election security season. She has done her part in helping us win this election.
Yes, and as right before we bring Linda Sinkowitz, a lot of questions from how do you get the recording to this show? We have so many speakers here. So how do you get to the recording? Here's how you get to the recording. You go to sternamerican.com, sternamerican.com. Let me show it to you on the screen here. There we go. sternamerican.com. Once you get to sternamerican.com, just go down to the bottom and you will see the Rumble link right there. Here's a Rumble link, very easy, sternamerican.com. Hit the Rumble link. That takes you to all of these shows. If you want to get the recording for the live shows, see where it says live right there? Hit that. And here is how you get to the live show. So this is a show that's going on right now. This is last week's show. This is a show before that. And that is how you get to the recordings for these great events. All right, Linda, thank you for being here.
Before you end that, Raj, we would like everybody to sign up to Stern American and also Stern American News. There's going to be a lot of stuff that you're going to put on there, and we're going to put on there that is going to make this going on. I just like to let everybody know we have over 5 million people that we have seen come on this today. Probably going to reach up to 7 million here. We're going to have this again on for Christmas on the 10th of December, if Raj is available, and we will hope to have 10 million people on this. We're going to spread this all over. I know we're on doing well because somebody contacted me that hasn't contacted me in 3 years, and that's when you know you're here. So I will everybody like to let everybody know that last Friday I sent the letter to President Trump, and I will let you know if he answers, and I'll let you know on our next Zoom exactly what happened. Linda.
So right before Linda comes, one other thing I want to share. So, my friends, as you've been listening to all of what you've been hearing, a lot of excellent strategy. Here's an idea that I'd like you to consider, and stay tuned for Linda here. But this is the thing: we do not have someone at the national level coordinating election integrity, election security events. So Steve and I were talking just yesterday, and he mentioned something, and I really want to share this with you because this is key. Since we started this, we've always had an adversary in the White House. This is the first time for most of us that in the election space that we now have an ally in the White House. So if you can help grow this audience that Steve is talking about to critical mass, then I think we will be able to persuade Washington to appoint an election czar or an election security czar. We have one for the deportation. We have two for downsizing the government. Most critical thing to get precinct strategy and all these other things coordinated. So the grassroots at the bottom, that's us, national at the top, we sandwich like this. An election czar could actually be that X factor. So your job, and I'm assigning you to, is for the next call that we have, please get more people here. It's a matter of footprint. The more people we can say that are interested in this idea, the more likely Washington will respond to this idea. So please consider that. And Linda, thanks for your patience. You are up.
Well, thank you so much, Steve and Raj. I really appreciate your having me on. You've had so many wonderful people. And I'll tell you, Greg Stenstrom, I'm going to see what I can do about driving down from Connecticut to Pennsylvania on December 9th. I mean, you are doing fantastic work, as well as Mike Lindell and a whole slew of others. Now, what our organization has been doing, we've changed over the past 6 months, past year. And as most of you may know, we have given out thousands and thousands of information on people's counties with the double registered, double voters. Right now, we are in the process of getting the voter rolls from November 5th. We probably won't have it ready till about December 15th or thereabouts. And then we will still be doing the same thing. We will be allowing people to get the data for their counties and or state for free. We'll see if there was double registered, double voters, and we have a whole bunch of other information. Now, Fight Voter Fraud has always believed in one vote for one legal voter. That's our mantra. That's what we're doing. We stay nonpartisan with our organization. And I got to tell you, the funniest thing someone said to me right after the election, after Trump won, well, what are you going to do now? Like I was going to stop Fight Voter Fraud? I'm like, the same thing we've been working on since 2018 is getting these voter rolls clean, getting the dead people off the voter rolls. And there are some amazing people, as Steve and Raj have alluded to, that we can pull something together to make things happen. Everybody within their own little niche. Now, some of the other stuff that we've seen and we let people know about were the students, the illegals that were voting. That was not only in North Carolina, but all over the country. That's something else we have to focus on. In Connecticut, we actually had a whistleblower come forward to us that had an internal memo from Central Connecticut State University, from the president's undocumented committee. And basically, the Career Development Office was looking for, quote, creative ideas to pay the undocumented and underdocumented without using the word employment or social security numbers. And it also said how other universities are using stipends, they're using fellowships, they're using grants. And again, they're looking for that. Well, we have been trying to get the information from the president of the university on, all right, so we know that college students can go and register and vote here in Connecticut just using a letter and an ID from the university. We want to know how many of the illegals are on that list. So obviously they have not gotten us the information. We're working on it, but we want people to be aware this is something that all of you should be looking at as well. There's all different ways that they have gone about doing this. Another thing was back in August, we had put up on our website, which is fightvoterfraud.org, a letter from the RNC that they had sent to the Nevada Secretary of State. And it detailed out exactly how your Secretary of State, with the help of the federal government, could locate the illegals within your state, and then you can cross-reference. We had hundreds of people sending us the letters that they had sent to their states, Secretary of States, as well as their governors. I posted the one that I put up online here in Connecticut to use as a template. And as many of you can see, I'm not politically correct. I never have been, and I never will be. I mean, an illegal is an illegal. Some of the other stuff that we know we had a great impact on, and I want to thank people for actually uploading and getting it out there, was we had done a video called Don't Lose the American Dream. And I worked with an immigration attorney, and it was half Spanish, and then the second part was English, repeating the same thing. And it was basically letting them know, listen, don't lose the American dream by voting. There is a way you can get your name off the voter rolls and still potentially become a US citizen. And we did it in a really nice way. And we did find that it got a lot of airtime, especially out in Nevada, which we really appreciated. So there's been a number of different things we've been working on. Another thing, come the first of the year, we have been working on a training manual to help everyone actually do the deep dives in their own states. I have a wonderful IT guy. He's young and intelligent. His name is Derek, and he has been going state by state to show exactly what you need to find in order to make it efficient and also be able to bring it to your law enforcement or your sheriff's department on people who have illegally voted or people who double voted, etc. So we're doing a whole number of different things. So our website is fightvoterfraud.org. We had a little bit of trouble of the last few days because the server got hacked. So not everything is back up there yet. We've got most of it up and running. But it was incredible how they were able to get into our stuff. So now my data guy said that we are going to have to go paranoid with our security measures, because we had some pretty serious security measures and they got breached with the that ransomware that was done. So we've done a workaround on everything. So again, my information is in the chat. My email's linda@fightvoterfraud.org. You can call me at 860-575-7125. We're working with a number of different organizations out there, and we're very proud of the fact that we were able to help a lot of people across the country with their election officials, getting them to remove people from the voter rolls that shouldn't be on there. And we're still continuing everything that we were doing before. So I want to thank you, Steve and Raj, so much for having me on. I greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and have a nice Thanksgiving. Raj, I got a few words and we'll get out of here because we're all tired. I got a beautiful gift. I want to see if I can get that on the camera from one of the guys in North Carolina, I believe. I thought that was very nice. He also sent me a Trump ring, which I'll show you, which I thought was magnificent. And also a USA ring. So that's very nice of people to appreciate what we do here. We take a lot of time to do this. I want to let everybody know it takes 12 hours a day, 6 days in a row just to get this on. Getting speakers, everybody is busy, and we want to appreciate everybody who comes on and gives up the time to do this. I got to believe that everybody on this Zoom and everybody listening around the world is interested in saving our elections. We have a lot of people in Europe listening because they have the same problems. I just saw in Canada today where they stopped the press from saying certain things. And so we need to really work to save our country. So thank you very much. Everybody have a happy Easter. It's all yours, Raj.
Thank you, Steve. And want to just remind everyone, especially the people that are watching this on through one of our podcast partners, if you are not receiving emails from either Steve Stern or myself, we would like for you to do that. And so the way you can do that is simply by texting the word elections to 91776. Text the word elections 91776. We're not going to hit you for money. We're not going to hit you spam. You will just get updates to these calls here. Again, the Republican Executive Committee, which is the Republican Party at your county level, many of those are having their elections in December. So please make sure you connect with that. Precinctstrategy.com. You've heard many speakers here mention that, including the President of the United States. So please go to precinctstrategy.com. You want to get the replay to this recording, just go to sternamerican.com, sternamerican.com, click the Rumble channel, and you will see that. For those of you that are noticing the change in tides, where the government's going to be decentralizing and the federal overreach is going to be cut down by the new administration, you have to play your part, I'm asserting. And in order for you to do that, you need to guide your governor, your Senate president, your Speaker of the House, the three people that control your state in most states, on how to do that. So American States Rights Forum is where you can get information on that, and that is statesrights.us, statesrights.us. So with that said, I'm going to end us off here with another great video from Stern, theflagshare.us. And we will see you. You just heard it from Steve Stern. Put that in your calendar. December 10th is our next event. December 10th is our next event. So please make sure you put that in your calendar. And importantly, you guys all jumped on the election czar idea. Love that. Love that you jumped on that. So what we need you to do is get 5 more people onto these calls so that we can get to the critical mass. If we don't have enough numbers, Washington will not listen to us. It's just a numbers game. So here is a flag shirt. Make sure you get a gift for yourself and your loved one this Christmas season. Here we go, and we'll see you next time. Okay, I will go ahead and share the screen. That'll help. That way you guys can actually see the video. So let me do that again. Stop share. Here we go. And here we go.
What defines the American spirit? Preserving life, liberty, and pursuing happiness. Caring for the nation we call home and its people. As patriots, it's our duty to drive the entrepreneurial spirit, pushing hard, reaching for success, sharing patriotism, because the American way of life is for all to live. The flag shirt, where freedom reigns.
Thank you, everyone, and we will see you next time.
Don't
Have a
forget
great
the chat.
Thanksgiving.
Don't forget the chat, Raj.
The chat.
Some of the people want the chat, you know, and if you
Oh,
could get me-
okay. Yep. All right, great. So save the chat. How do you save the chat? So let me share that with you as well. So let's get back to screen share. So if you haven't done this before, the way you save the chat, very straightforward. You go to the chat screen, which is right here. I've got a screenshot of it. This is what the chat looks like on your Windows computer. There are 3 dots here. Look for the 3 dots. You click the 3 dots and it'll give you an opportunity to save the chat. Click the 3 dots and you can save the chat. I know some of you on iPads or Macs and it doesn't work that way. So we will try to get the chat to you. I guess if you contact us, we will try to get the chat to you via email. There's a lot of you out there though. So if you can just click the 3 dots here and click save the chat, then you can get all the information that was discussed in the call during the chat. Great, Steve. Have a great Thanksgiving, Steve. Thanks for all your hard work. I hope you take 2 hours of rest in the next week.
No, I'm going out tonight. I'm going out tomorrow and I'm on shows. Kat, how you doing? Nice seeing you. Thanks for everybody for all the support. That's what it takes. It takes support. Thank you again. Have a great Thanksgiving. Action, action, action. Thank you, Raj, for all you do. I know you're right there.
Bye, guys. Happy Thanksgiving. Bye-bye.